Episode 4, God, Sinners, Martyrs, and Ghosts, oh my.
Or Take Me Home, Country Road.
Or Chomp Chomp.
Or Kingfisher's Mystery Tattoo Parlor.
Welcome back to Between Pages and Friends, a book club podcast hosted by Con and Lauren, two besties who are reading this book for the very first time, and Jon and Kyle, our 5-star husbands and the evil masterminds behind this season of the show. I'm Lauren.
I'm Jon.
I'm Kyle.
And I'm Con. Welcome to episode 4 of the Fae and Alchemy series by Callie Hart. Today we are talking about Quicksilver chapters 23 to 31. Just a reminder, this is a spoiler-free zone for anything beyond these chapters, so if you're reading along with us, you're in good hands. And if you've been loving the series, go ahead and send this episode to your favorite reading buddy or that one friend you've been not so steadily trying to recruit into this fandom. The more the merrier.
Before we dive into the deliciously unhinged mess that is today's chapter breakdown, let's do our due diligence. I'm here with your mild content warning. This book leans heavily into adult themes. If that's not your vibe, now's your moment to politely exit stage left, because we're about to discuss some actually serious things like infertility, death of family members, and some other possibly triggering content. This is, as always, a safe space to discuss anything and everything with us as we journey through this story.
Another way to join the journey is to check out our Patreon. Our Book Bestie tier is just $5 a month and gets you into our private Discord, our monthly book chats, live events, and a whole crew of fellow book lovers to gush with. Bump up to the $10 Found Family tier, and you'll also get early access to ad-free episodes, exclusive merch discounts, voting power, and behind-the-scenes goodies galore.
And this summer, we're officially going to Enchanticon. Come hang out with us in person this August 15th through 17th in St. Louis, Missouri. We'll be hosting a spoiler-free chat to help new readers fall in love with the Throne of Glass universe. Enchanticon is a fantasy convention from Mischief Management, and it's shaping up to be a weekend to remember. Grab your tickets at enchanticon.com, and don't forget to use our code FRIENDS15 for 15% off.
And last but not least, your reviews on Apple Podcast and Audible are the magic that keep our podcast going. It helps more readers find our little corner of the internet, and we receive them like a little virtual high five. They always make our day. So here's a recent 5-star review on Apple Podcasts from our new bestie, CJ4!4, titled Humor and Fun. Started this podcast after reading Throne of Glass, and even though I'd recently read it, I so enjoyed listening to the podcast and the banter and all the discussions that happen. I love that it gives everyone's perspectives and that it's light but insightful. This podcast left me in a reading slump, not because I didn't have good books to read, but because I wasn't doing it with my new friends. So I've restarted the Empyrean series to be able to spend more time with y'all. Just love it all. Thank you, CJ4!4.
I'm so sorry for your slump, but I'm so honored.
That's so cute. Guess we just have to read more books together then.
Yep.
And here we are with Con's Declassified Fantasy Pronunciation Guide, the part of the show where we highlight all the new names and places mentioned in this chapter section. This is a shorter one today, so we're jumping right into Ballad, the small village visited in chapter 25. We learn that Kingfisher's wolves are called the Lupoprolia. We hear about Sorsha, queen of the Lycian Fae, said to be over 3,000 years old. Wendy, the little old lady they met in Ballad, who was very fond of Kingfisher. Kingfisher's mom was called Edina of the Seven Towers, Lady of Kalish. Saris's mom was named Iris Fane. And then Davy, mentioned in passing, was the Zilvaran smuggler that apparently owes Carrion money. And in world building, we have the book that Gracia Swift read to Carrion. This was called Fae Creatures of the Galarian Mountains. We learned about Betel Biscuits from Wendy. And lastly, Laurith's new sword, named Avisiath, the unsung song, Redemption's Dawn. So epic.
Yeah.
But, oh, dang.
Oh, dang.
But before we jump into the chapter recap, I would like to take a quick moment to celebrate the love of my life and our resident recap master, Jon, because it's his birthday today. Happy birthday, Jon.
Happy birthday, Jon. Wow.
Is that when this comes out? On my birthday? Oh, I had no idea. Wow.
Happy July 9th.
Yay.
Wow. That's so
Thanks for
special.
spending your special day here on the podcast.
So
That's so
special.
sweet of you.
Yeah.
So special. And listeners, gather ye round, for 'tis time to hear the tale of chapters 23 to 31. Take it away, Juan.
Hey. I just thought I'd keep that going.
Yes.
That was probably my best hear ye
was
that I've
really good.
ever,
Great.
literally
That was- I
ever
would have
done.
to
I
agree.
probably
That
could
was
have
really
gone a
solid.
little higher pitched. I'll practice it.
Yeah.
All
I would
right.
have heard. if
Yeah, you
someone
would have heard
said
the
that.
difference.
Whoa,
Yeah.
I gotta hear that E over there.
Oh, that's a hell of a yee. Oh. Okay. We join our fabled femme fatale post-coitus, summoned by Fisher to the war camp. She berates him because she woke up with a tattoo on her chest that came from his own tattoos as it slipped from his skin to hers during Fisher is taking her to camp.
You did not just do that.
There has to be so many sound bites of you online now doing that sort of thing. It's like dangerous for yourself.
Yeah, probably. All
That's
right.
too
I
good.
thought I was going to
Keep
be able to
that
make
in
it through
there.
that, but
Keep that.
all right. No. Fisher is taking her to the camp healer to quote unquote take something when she tells him that she's been cleansed. Apparently, back in Zilvarin, 7 out of 10 baby girls are tagged and then when they turn 14 are sterilized thanks to a plan from Madra's advisors. He's visibly upset about this but doesn't really go into it and has her get to work in the forge. She has to search for her little bit of Quicksilver again, and it takes her up the steep mountainside to a cave where Carrion is waiting with a Quicksilver. She gives him like a hard time here about how chill he is about basically everything that's been happening and like him being here and like Fae are real and all this. And he basically just replies like, duh, because his grandmother had some kind of book that she would read to him about the Fae, and he has simply always believed these stories based on the seriousness of his grandmother and just his family in general. She tries a few more combinations with Carrion's help, but comes up empty yet again. Fisher shows up, tells Carrion to find a wren so that he can find something useful to do. Carrion calls Sarah Sunshine, and Fisher like gets all huffy about it and explains that she is moonlight. But he needs Saris to do something, and they head to the war tent, where they try and figure out how to get the sword shards out of the ceiling. We learn that it was a Fae relic, Danya's own god sword, and represented her position in the Lupoprolia, which is the name that we learned are Fisher's wolves, basically like his personal guards. We also learned that no alchemist has ever been recorded to fragment objects like this, which makes Saris the most powerful alchemist that they've ever seen. Then Renfis shares that they only have about a year to figure all this out before basically they're completely overrun. Yeah. Fisher has to go see Telena, so Saris and Laurith go grab a drink. We get a lot of interesting backstory here that Fisher technically can't lie. Something about making an oath when they turn 21, either like bleed on the stone or go the lawless route and give up their honor. Then she asks Laurith about their canines and if they still use them. He gets a little awkward about this. It's a taboo subject, apparently because they're mainly only used now in a sexual way. Then Laurith goes into the story of how he came to be in the Lupoprolia. He used to be a traveling singer, basically a bard. He was being drained by feeders on the side of the road when Fisher saved him and gave him part of his soul. We get the details of that exchange and how Laurith began eating and training and finally made it to the war camp, having traveled over the Omnimaran Mountains. We also get some history about Sorsha, queen of the Lycian Fae. Saris returns to Kalish until Fisher comes back, and he takes her to a place called Ballad, a quaint little town unburdened by war. They enjoy some festivities and food before heading to what seems like Fisher's childhood home, or maybe something similar in town here. We also meet Wendy, like a sweet old lady who obviously knows Fisher. During their time together, Saris goes into some kind of trance or something, and she does the whole Anorath Moor thing, and they take that opportunity to just go back to the house. After going to bed, Saris is awoken by Fisher's screams and finds him suffering from the Quicksilver. She stays to help him, even though he pushes her to leave. To help calm him down, she tells Fisher about some of her life from Zilvarin, mostly about her mother, a little bit about Elroy, and how her and Hayden have survived up to this point. They also wake up together, Fisher rocking some fierce morning wood, which is quickly dispatched in this week's segment of Emoji Erotica. Ow, ow! All right. We got some good ones this week. I'm not going to lie. Yeah. All right. Sun, wood, thumbs up. Tense face, ball of yarn, finger pointing down, chest pawn, the little pinchy hand, parenthesis, bread and chopstick in parenthesis, folder, guy swimming, rose, shouting emoji, little thought bubble, black circle. What did we say this was? It was like the poof,
The fart.
Like the wind.
the fart,
The fart.
Yeah.
gust of wind, like the gust of wind thing. Shirt, X, disco ball, boxing glove, vampire tooth, question mark? The little like lip bite, like lightning bolt, glove, treble clef, glass of milk, blood droplet, hammer, 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 sun, hammer, exclamation point, stars, planet, boxing glove, shouting emoji, phoenix. I don't know how to describe this.
That's like the vibrate emoji,
The,
the
like-
shook emoji.
The like shaking O face. That I shouldn't say that.
Yeah.
Don't call
No,
it
you
Not
got
the
it.
O
that.
No, you
face.
got
It's not
it.
the
No,
O
that's
face.
right. That's what
We
it
all
is.
know what it is.
Like the like the trembling face emoji, and then the hug emoji. And that's this week's Emoji Erotica.
Wow.
Good job.
Thank you.
That's so crazy.
needed
That's
that
actually
recap.
the first thing I ever texted Lauren. It's like word for word.
Emoji for emoji.
Half of those
Yeah.
The
emojis
same
didn't
thing.
even exist.
The folder might be too obvious, but if you can get the disco ball, good for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
If any of you are getting a disco ball on the regular, good for you.
Oh, heyo. Also, just some quick notes here about their time together. He bites her, and they can also mind speak. So,
Called it.
yeah. She wakes again to the smell of food and coffee. She's still reeling about what just happened when she notices that her hands and arms are covered in tattoos. Fisher is able to explain some of the tattoos and what they mean, but not so much some of the others. He ends up, quote unquote, hiding them for her, and if she wants them back after a while, he'll just kind of like give them back to her, basically. Interesting. They finish their time at Ballad and head back to Kalash, where Saris continues to try and fail at her combinations in the forge. Carrion swings by as she's just like chucking bottles and beakers out back in frustration, and he suggests, since she has mastered asking the Quicksilver to change to its liquefied form and like back, she's kind of mastered that she should just ask the Quicksilver to meld with the stuff. As frustrated as she is that Carrion came up with that idea, she takes him to the war tent to test his theory. She has a little conversation with the shards in the war tent, eventually bargaining with it. If it will come out and let her forge a new sword, she will give it a song. It agrees. They collect the shards with Laurith's help, and the three of them head back to the forge. She gets to work immediately, spending a full day or like a day and a half forging the new sword, incorporating Laurith's help as well in forging a wolf head hilt. Fisher shows up shortly after, and in kind of a really cool moment, they're like all kind of helping her make this sword in some way. I just thought that was really cool. Finally finished. They were in awe of her creation. Laurith holds it for just a minute, even running his finger along the blade, earning like a small cut. They head outside to a radiating view of the aurora, a blessing that hasn't been seen, that they say, in almost 1,000 years, or like at least 1,000 years. With the sword in hand, beauty around them, Laurith breaks into a song, telling, quote, the tragic tale of impossible odds and heroic sacrifice, nearly every line paying tribute to Kingfisher, end quote. The Quicksilver accepts the tribute and also accepts the warrior who is first to bleed on the blade. Oops. As Laurith begins to panic, afraid of Danya's reaction, they keep telling him how much he deserves it, especially with the song, and they're all like, what song? The Quicksilver literally took the song for itself. And then the Quicksilver tells Laurith to name it, and he does. Avisiath. And as he does, blinding white light erupts from the sword. The Quicksilver allowing power for a newly forged god sword in the form of Angel's Breath. Pretty effing dope. The camp is abuzz, having seen the power, but Saris is dead tired, so Fisher takes her back to his tent, helps her take a bath. As they sleep, Saris gets an idea and tries talking to the Quicksilver in Fisher's eye to try to get it to leave. But we learn that the Quicksilver and Fisher are bound in a way. Renfish rushes in with news that the Horde is back at the riverbanks. They rush to get ready, Saris determined to stay with them. So Fisher fastens Solus as her weapon, and they head to the banks of the Darn. They station themselves at a part of the river where some bold feeders are attempting to cross. It's like a spot that's high risk, high reward here. There's like a strong current underneath. Some of them make it about halfway across when Fisher and Wren, they like kind of send their magic to meet them out, and they also get the ice to break up just like they did before. However, the feeders apparently have been like pulling a Pirates of the Caribbean thing here, have been like walking underwater and like actually make it to the bank. Fisher heads down like farther to help while Wren and Saris stay to fend off the group of feeders at their spot. And honestly, Saris does quite well here, fighting off several by herself. Some pretty dope maneuvering. Fisher returns to them to help finish them off just as the darkness is lit up with Laurith's angel breath sweeping across the feeders. Fisher leads the victory cry, ringing out Laurith's name as a scream is heard from across the river, and Everlane appears, shouting for Kingfisher.
Dun, dun, dun.
Spooky.
Thanks again for the recap. We'll dive right into chapter 23, The Ticking Clock.
Do they have clocks in this world, Kyle?
They better.
I got the first note here. Crazy. So they just banged it out. And she's got the tattoo of the bird. She said, I did not ask for a tattoo, Fisher. I definitely didn't ask for a bird to be permanently inked right above my effing boob. You need to take it back. And I wrote, oh, interesting. And in parentheses, I wrote, also boob.
The giggle was so much better.
But
than
I did
imagined it in my head.
want to call out here, though. I'm curious if the bird is a kingfisher.
I think I wrote that in a note later. Somebody brings up the tattoos and saying it's a bird, and it like I wrote that. I think it would be a kingfisher.
Yeah,
I
it
don't
would make
actually
sense.
know,
But
it
like
would make sense to me.
Yeah.
for some reason, my first read through, I was like, oh, cool, like a bird, like a sparrow or something. But I'm like, why wouldn't it be a kingfisher? Because that's his name.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Right above his heart. Oh my God. Ooh. Okay, I do love all of that, but learning in this scene in chapter 23 that Saris and 70% of her ward are sterilized as kids just because they were the poorest was absolutely heartbreaking. I was really intrigued by Kingfisher's reaction as well. Like, obviously he cares about her, but I feel like there was clearly more here too, and he just like shut down. I know that I've been fixated on Kingfisher's tattoos, but I also want to know what is up with his pupils, because there were some descriptions of this in the last section too, and then they'd like return to normal. But at the end of this conversation, when he like kind of shuts down after she tells him this, it says, when he faced me again, his eyes were almost fully black, his pupils blown wide open. Hi, Minnie.
Many.
So that was just, I think I've noted it like a couple of times in here, and I didn't include all my highlights of that, but I just think that is kind of interesting as well. Like, it'll describe his pupils being like taking up his whole eyeball, basically. Like, his eyes are wholly black, and then his pupils are like back to normal, and they're little and tiny, but it's always like around some kind of conflict or something, or sex.
I was gonna say, I feel like a guy's eyes darken or like their pupils go black or whatever. Like, that feels like a regular bookish thing.
Right.
To
This
me,
just
but
didn't
maybe
seem
not
like a
like-
regular bookish time for that to happen.
I don't know. He's in love with her. He's angry that happened.
That could be. Yeah.
So is this him going, whoa?
Yes.
Yes.
No, this is him like the murderous rage.
Mm,
Gonna go kill Madra.
I like that.
Take revenge.
I'm wondering
Ooh,
if
I like that.
I'm wondering if maybe like because she's human, if he thought there was like some kind of future with her and children were in the mix, that like it would be easier for children to be an option, because they mentioned that it's like really rare for
For Faye
for
to
Faye
have
to have children. So I'm wondering if that was just like on his mind, or maybe that just hits home with his mom or something. I don't know.
I was kind of wondering about that too, because like on the scientific side of things, which I get Faye, there's no accounting for, but I'm pretty sure when your pupils go wide, it's when you're like A, in the dark and trying to see light, or B, very unfocused. Isn't it when your pupils go pinpoint when you're in like the hunter mode, the anger, the intensity?
Not
Also,
sure.
it could be like his shadow type energy, like on the inside.
Yeah.
Magic.
All right. My next note
But
here
I don't know.
yeah. My next note here is right after that conversation. It says, Kingfisher stormed away without a backward glance. And I just wrote, aw, buddy. He's upset.
He's so in love.
He is. He in love. And then Carrion has an interesting comment here. I'm trying to think where this was exactly.
It's like when she first finds him on the mountaintop, right? And he's like holding the book.
Oh, yes. He's got the book. He's reading some things. But he says, did you know that the Evalian Fae are the youngest of the Fae houses? By 1,000 years, there was a dispute between these two brothers, and they splintered off to make their own court. And I had to call this out because I definitely missed this on my first read through. Gosh, with them being some of them being almost 2,000 years old, and they're the youngest by 1,000 years. Yeah, that makes it super interesting. And just the whole story with like two brothers. Have we met somebody in this book who is like kind of the brother of the Evalian Fae, I guess? So that's very curious.
It did make me wonder if this was the Autumn Court that splintered off then, because there's an Autumn Court that's been mentioned, but it seems like that's somehow different from Evelian, Galarian, Lycian, Sanisrothian, I guess. Are those like technically considered the houses of the Fae? So I was wondering if maybe the Autumn Court was that.
I don't know either.
Do you actually not know, or
Bunch
do
of
you know?
questions.
And
Oh,
you're
yeah.
acting like
I'm
you don't
definitely
know.
thinking about him being like, I wonder if there's a guy here we've not met. It's like, you know, John, you've read the book.
I do have a note later that's like that, though, where I was like, how many characters can I think of that this could possibly be? If it's someone we already know. So the book that Carrion is talking about here has a note written on the first page that matches the one at the beginning of our actual book, of the Quicksilver book. He said the thing. It says, never forget, monsters thrive best in the dark. Commit all you read here to memory. Prepare for war. That was just fun.
Is
'cause we
he
talked
reading
about it before we
Quicksilver?
started.
This is a whole Inception
Oh
thing.
my gosh.
He has the script.
He's like, there's this really hot character with red hair.
And that's why he's just chill about everything, because he knows how it's going to play it in the end.
Pretty much immediately after that, he's trying to motion the number 2 to Saris and says he held up his middle finger and his index finger. And that was a weird way to write it. So I kind of picture Karen go like, there's 2 exclamation points just to get a free flip off at Saris, just a teaser is how I pictured that. But he says in that prepare for war, there's 2 exclamation points. The Swifts have always been a very serious people. Gracia took the superfluous punctuation to mean that the situation, should these Galarian Fae creatures ever show their faces, would be very dire indeed. And I really only had that note because I thought it was funny about the whole like, oh, she put 2 exclamation points. It's super serious because Lauren does that. And I didn't. When we first started dating, she like put exclamation points on every text. And I was very much a never exclamation point person. Yeah, she still does that. But it reminded me of her. I was like, oh, so this is like something Lauren would do. Like the number of exclamation points is going to tell you how important this is.
And if there's no exclamation marks, you know that I'm not happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Immediately pissed.
Yeah. One word answers from Lauren without.
Shoot.
Oh yeah,
I'll
if she
give word
includes
answers.
if she includes punctuation without an exclamation point, that's even worse.
It's bad.
Like
Run.
without punctuation, fine, but purposefully putting
my
a
gosh.
period in there, you can't.
Great.
If it's like
Worst
yes,
case scenario.
period, I'm like. Telling my daughters, lock the doors, lock the doors. She put a period in the text.
It's not like that.
No, but it was like, I mean, and you don't do it as often as you used to, but it used to be like 18 exclamation points. And you literally told me like, yeah, that's how important it is. That's how excited I am.
That's
And I was
how
like,
excited
oh.
I am.
But I was like, I grew up texting even when there was only T9 predictive text, completely grammatical. Like I didn't use abbreviations or anything. So it was like she was one of the first ones that I knew that did like the wild texting. I was like, oh, I thought they only did this on TV.
Yeah.
On TV.
I still text with like regular grammatical
do, yeah.
sentences.
It's not
There's
like
just a
you're
lot of
like-
exclamation
Yeah.
marks at the end.
And it is.
But I
2025. There's
would-
no character limits anymore.
Go
right?
crazy.
I would
Go
like
crazy.
to, I got unlimited data.
Yeah, why not?
I would like to reference though last week's script whenever I figured out there was vampires and the amount of exclamation
Oh, yeah.
marks in the script. That is for those who don't regularly text me on my own. That's how it is. So
That's how it is. Okay, so in this same conversation, Carrion says, I wasn't allowed to have dessert until I'd read at least 7 traits of the Griffin Spray or explained in great detail how to kill a blooded Fey warrior wearing full plate and armor. So, first of all, just this whole section was cracking me up because I love that Carrion is about to become an incredibly useful asset. It was like the worst thing ever that he got dropped in this realm, and then all of a sudden he like has this whole wealth of information, which is just hilarious. But also Griffin sprites. That was a fun thing to hear.
Mhm.
that's cute.
I'm excited about that. That's all.
Maybe sometimes sprites are mean.
Yeah. I do think it's funny
Yeah.
that dessert is the motivator.
I
He's,
know.
That's how we get
Like-
our kids to do things.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
You said it was like the worst thing ever that he came here, but really, probably the time of his life. He's got baths, foursomes, dessert. He's
Foursomes.
living it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll read a book for some cake.
Who wouldn't, honestly?
That's how we bribe you guys to be on the podcast.
I was gonna say, everybody else, give your husband a sliced cake.
What are we talking about here? My next note. Madra had burned any literature that even mentioned the Fae or magic a long time ago. And I just wrote, begs the question from last episode about how she knows about Fae runes. I mean, I don't know. If there's nothing to research it, I know we have all the questions about like how old she actually is and all this kind of stuff too. So that's probably related, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's fair. Oh my gosh. When Saris is listing some ingredients here, like some elements that she was using to test with the Quicksilver, she listed the word antimony in the middle of like several bullet points. And I had like a chalk zone level brain blast, like when we were recording the Empyrean series and Kyle said chalk zone, and my mind just like, it was like this whole thing was just unlocked in an instant. And that's what happened to me when it said antimony, because I think there were a couple different versions of this, but there is a version of the elements song, like the periodic table of elements. There's a song that starts with antimony, and when I heard this, it unlocked a bunch of the. I used to have it memorized.
I was going
Go
to make
for
you
it.
sing it right now.
Yeah, I was gonna
love
say.
to hear-
How much do you still
got?
have?
It's let's see. There's I'm probably gonna mess it up now. It's like there's antimony, arsenic, aluminum, selenium, and hydrogen and oxygen and nitrogen and rhenium and nickel, neodymium, neptunium, geranium, and iron, americium, ruthenium, uranium, europium, zirconium, lutetium, vanadium, and lanthanum, and osmium, and astatine, and radium, and golden protactinium, and ilium, and gallium, and iodine, and thorium, and thulium, and thallium.
so
I know
impressed.
that song. That used to
I'm
come on
so
my.
impressed.
Have you heard
my
that one?
playlist.
Thank you.
My
Wow.
playlist, Kyle.
And I'm serious. It's like his name was like Tom something. He used to come on
Yeah,
Jonathan
great guy.
Colton's related stuff.
Sure.
He's the same guy that I think sung "Poisoning Pigeons in the Park."
I have no idea what that is.
You should. Look it up. Yeah.
I would also like to point out that no one ever required me to memorize that song.
Yeah, that sounds like a you thing.
I think it was a me thing. I think there were some people that like had to memorize it for class if they were like in one of the
Yeah.
there was like a science class that required that, but I think it was even a different version of the song. I just heard this and I was like, I need to learn that, and I
Right.
did.
I was kind of the same way with
So proud of
Yakko Warner's "Countries of the World" when I was a kid. That was my
Oh yeah.
song.
Mhm.
Kyle.
Can you sing it?
Kidding.
And
United States, Canada, Mexico, Panama, Haiti, Jamaica, Peru, Republic Dominican, Cuba, Caribbean, Greek, and El Salvador too. That's all I know right now.
wow.
Still pretty good. Good job. We got Kyle to sing on the
Greece and El Salvador. Greek is not.
We
the
did it.
country.
Finally. Only took a year.
Only took the Animaniacs.
That's all it ever
Should
took.
have brought them into this way earlier.
We only brought up Pinky and the Brain. We've been all over it.
Yeah. So this just cracked me up. This when Carrion said to Kingfisher the morning after Saris and Kingfisher had sex, Carrion was like, "Did I say that right? I feel like I just said too many character names, and now I'm scared I said Carrion and Kingfisher or something. Did I say that
I
correctly?
mean, there's probably a fanfic of that somewhere.
There's got to be. Okay. All right. So when Kingfisher shows up and Carrion says, "You are extra fucking miserable today. You should really get laid. Might help improve your mood. Tell him, sunshine." And then in Sarah's POV, it says, "I choked loudly." And I was like, me too, girl. This was hilarious. Timing was just excellent. Big fan.
Yes, this is just Kingfisher being a romance icon, of course. After Carrion calls her sunshine, he tells Carrion not to call her that. Says, because she is moonlight, the mist that shrouds the mountains, the bite of electricity in the air before a storm, the smoke that rolls across a battlefield before the killing starts. You have no idea what she is, what she could be. You should be calling her Majesty. Oh, shit. Okay, sir. What you doing over here?
I loved this, but also at the same time, in the back of my head, I'm like, or is he being literal about her being called Majesty because she sat at his right hand at dinner or something, or because she's his mate, or because she is a literal witch because he called her one in the last chapter section?
I'm here for all of those things.
Yes.
100%.
There's more there.
Yes, there has to be. Okay, chapter 24, Lupo Prolia. My note here is that is Kingfisher's wolves, that there are 8 of them usually. And I think this is Laurith saying this. He says, though our numbers have been reduced of late, we fight as a team working together just as wolves do. I'm sure you've noticed the wolf on some of our armor. And my note here was, of course I've noticed the wolf, Laurith. I thought you were all werewolves for a really long time. Secretly hoping that could still be some sort of truth somewhere in this world building, even though I don't think it's them specifically. But if we're looking at Twilight as our reference, as we always should, book 1, there was only vampires, and book 2 is when the werewolves show up. So I'm going to hold out. If it doesn't happen this book, I'm still going to hold the faith.
And when does the baseball scene happen?
That happens in the first book. So
Okay.
Well, we've already had volleyball, so
That's fair.
that is true.
it's the Quicksilver equivalent, I guess. When I read this line too, I'm sure you've noticed the wolf on some of our armor, I was like, I know Lauren has.
Yes, I have.
Speaking of the wolf, from Ceres's point of view, she says, and I'd noticed his wolf tattoo more than once. Last night, for example, when the head of the Lupo Prolia had plowed me like a god's cursed field. And I just wrote, oh, the wordplay. Wow. Oh, gosh.
Why is she a god's cursed field?
Because she was just plowed.
Like
I thought that was pretty clear in the.
Thus the wordplay.
I get it, but why is she god's cursed?
Damn, girl, are you a god's cursed field?
Whoa!
Because I like to plow you.
Oh my gosh. And then my next comment, this is when I really, really started to like Laurith, is when he says to Danya, I think she says something like, do you want me to hit you again or something like that? And he says, oh no way. I'm still sporting a bruise from where you clocked me last night. You were way over the line the way you went for Fisher. It's your own fault that your sword's in pieces in a wall. I think it's impressive what the human did and no more than you deserved besides. And I was just like, yes, Laurith, like, come on, dude.
Get her.
I loved it.
Yeah. And then Kingfisher's jaw was clenching and unclenching here. So cheers and uncheers, everybody.
How do you...
Spit take.
I knew you would
Actually did it. I faked it. My
I
desk
thought as
is
soon as-
all the like stickers and merch are in that direction, Kyle.
It didn't go that far.
Okay, good.
If your sticker order's a little soggy in a couple of weeks.
You're welcome.
We should be charging more for that.
Yes.
For our 4th tier on Patreon. All right. My next note is when Laurith says to Ceres, that makes you the most powerful alchemist ever recorded. And I wrote, yay! Of course it does. She a bad bitch. Go Ceres.
I will not lie. I kind of had an opposite reaction at first, but I caught myself being a jerk. Where I was like, well, friggin' of course she is the most powerful alchemist, blah, 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 main character. But then the second later, my brain was like, yeah, you wouldn't be reading a book about a third-rate character. You read a book about the best one. If she was not the most powerful, they probably wouldn't write a book about her. And then I was like, accepted. She's the most powerful.
He argued himself out of his opinion.
The most Kyle thing I've ever heard in my life.
Oh my god!
I'm glad this argument with yourself went well.
Wow, that's crazy. Laurith kind of goes on to say, most of us were infants when the paths between realms closed and the alchemists became extinct. Some of us hadn't even been born yet. We have no idea what battlefields used to look like with an alchemist in camp, ready to forge new weapons that draw magic. And I highlighted became extinct. I believe that's pronounced murdered, first of all. And then,
Got him.
and then hang on a minute. I said they were infants when the paths between realms closed. And we know that like Madra was queen around that time. And all right, that means around 15 to 1700 years ago, just kind of based on Everlane and Fisher's age, which means, like I said, Madra has been around that long too. So like, still begs the question, like, what is going on with her? Because even if she is human, like you'd expect like maybe like a couple hundred years or something like that. But like, okay, she's almost been around for that long. Like that's wild.
Yeah, because I think at the beginning they just said that she was at least 1,000 years old or something.
Yeah.
Or they estimated she was around 1,000.
Yeah, but she's
that is
closer to
interesting.
2,000 at least.
Yeah.
Probably.
But this also means that whoever the older Fae are would remember this because they're like 1,000 years older than the Evelian Fae, right?
Oh yeah, true.
I want to talk to
point.
some Galarian Fae.
Yeah.
I want to speak with them specifically because everything's
Sure
about
you
the
do.
Galarian Fae. They're the ones that like dwelled with the Autumn Court, and they're the ones that Carrion's book is written about. And there was another mention of them recently. I forget what it was now, but I feel like we need to talk to them.
Does it mean that they're older or just that their history is older? That this like new branch went off and started its own thing. So its history is 1,000 years less than whatever everyone else is. Or does it actually mean that their age is actual, like the people there are actually? Because it wouldn't make sense for these people to have already be so old and then go switch to another place and then their age starts over and they're 1,000 years younger than everyone else or something like that. Like,
Good point.
if that makes sense.
That's a great point. Yeah.
So I don't know that works, but I could also be wrong. I don't know.
Was it just that nobody lived in Evelia until?
Yeah, it sounds like they just split off and started their own place.
I thought it was saying they split off from the Evelian Fae, not to create the Evelian Fae, but maybe I read
Well, it
that
does
wrong.
say, so it says, did you know that the Evelian Fae are the youngest of the Fae houses by 1,000 years?
Yes, the Fae houses, not the Fae, the people.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Oh, I
So,
So
like
they
how
were-
one
I just read that
country
wrong.
can be younger than another country,
Right.
or whatever.
Yeah. So
Like
they
how we
were,
only have like 200 or 300 years, but everyone else has
yeah.
thousands.
Yeah,
Yeah. So like the house, the Evelian house was formed.
1,000 years later than everyone else.
Yes. Got you.
But most of them were infants when it happened, or when
Of
No,
the
that
paths
was-
between
of
realms
Laurith.
closed.
that
That's
was
different.
the realms closed. Yeah.
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 Got you. Now
Yeah.
we're tracking.
I still want to talk to the Galarian Fae, but I am on the same
Well,
Now
page.
we're
I totally
tracking.
agree about that. I felt that once we got Carrion's book. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
now I'm interested in this other random place.
Yes.
Yeah. Good catch. Good point.
Then we get from Renfis that they only have basically a year until they're screwed forever and over. It's all done. And it's just horrible. Ren says, I'm not talking about another 100 years or 50 or even 10. We have 1 year, 12 months. If we don't figure this thing out by this time, Malcolm will have won. So that's wild and really puts a crunch time on things. Because I feel like Kingfisher's kind of been just chill with it. Like the way he's given her however many rings.
Yeah.
And it's like, just figure it out. Like, she's going to be here for forever. And then all of a sudden
Yeah.
we're like, nope, you got 12 months, maybe, if his estimate is correct. Like, so
Maybe he did that on purpose to be like, hey, just figure it out. You know, like, I don't want to stress you out with the fact, like, we're all going to die in a year. Like, you got to do this.
she like immediately starts freaking the freak
Yeah.
out
Mm-hmm.
and like having this whole like panic attack. So yeah, maybe he was trying to ease her into it.
I forgot I did have a note here. It said, "Yay, revised thesis statement."
Yeah. Yeah, and obviously Sarah's reaction to this is she's like hyperventilating basically, but she says, God, sinners, martyrs, and ghosts. And I just started chuckling about this. I was like, Kyle is going to love this, especially with the addition of ghosts there at the end.
I did. I'd honestly, one of the main things too, I thought was just like, wow, what a mouthful to say for like, oh my gosh. Instead, it's like, God, sinners, martyrs, and ghosts. To be like, if someone near me said that, I'd have to cut him off. And it was very much giving like stars and garters, or crows and crosses, gods above and bones below. Faith in Megora.
Your Texan is coming out. But yeah, Saris leaves the tent, actually freaking out, having a full-on panic attack. And I think it's just so funny how Laurith is like, yeah, you get used to it, that overwhelming sense of impending doom. Eventually it becomes background noise. You don't even notice it at all. I was like, that's so depressing, but probably true. Like, you've lived for 1,000 years. I guess any day could probably end. Like, whatever.
So valid.
I did enjoy this conversation, though, with Laurith, where we learn a lot more about like what an oathbound fae is, and then what like a lawless fae and how that all works. And then from this moment, anytime like we're in a conversation specifically with Kingfisher, but I'm sure with others, there's a lot of times that I feel like Kingfisher starts something and then stops himself and then says something else. And I wonder if it's because of this like oath, like he almost says the truth, but then decides, oh wait, I need to work my way around it, or like he's just really careful with his words.
Yeah.
Because he's not like forced by magic to keep the truth. It's just by his honor. So maybe he's, I don't know, especially in those heated moments with Saris, that I feel like he cuts himself off a lot. But
I thought it said that they literally couldn't lie. Like he was like, we're incapable of it or something during that conversation.
I know that they only did it because of their honor. But is it like that they made a magical
I thought
like,
it was the same as any other oath that they take, like they're incapable of it. So I don't know, because there was other times where I read it, and in last episode's notes where she was like, "You're incorrigible," and he was like, "I don't know what that means." And she's like, "Yeah, you do." He's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I do." So I was like, "Well, was that a lie, or was that just him being kind of a weird, like, do white lies not count?"
Yeah, good point.
That is a great point.
But maybe even like him not sharing his stuff about Malcolm isn't that he's bound to Malcolm, but it's like this oath, like he just knows he can't even say it because he'll have to say the truth, and he's not wanting to share it or ready to share it yet or something. I don't know.
Well, and there was that little part where she asks if she can have her tattoos covered up. She was like, I can do that. And he was like, sure, it doesn't matter to me. And then he cuts himself off, and then he's like, you can do that. Or like, I'm sure there's some people around here that could do it. Yeah.
Because it does matter to him. So he couldn't say it. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's a lot of times that I feel like that happens.
That's cute.
So,
do you think that's like a liar situation where he didn't know if it mattered to him until he tried to say it? It's like, doesn't matter. Oh, no, it does. I can't lie about it.
That makes me want to go reread this whole book and find when it started.
Like he literally can't even say a universal lie that he might not even know. The sky is blue.
Maybe. That's interesting.
Ooh, that's
See,
fun.
I'm going to be watching for that too. I really liked it.
That.
And then I just put this in here for myself because last episode I was really debating if only Kingfisher was like, maybe he was like a full-on vampire because she only looks at his mouth and stuff. But they have this whole on everybody's a vampire conversation with Laurith, or that everybody has like the fangs and stuff. So that was just me speculating, and I guess it's not true. Everyone has sexy vampire teeth, so shout out to everyone. But maybe Kingfisher, I don't know, he drank her blood, but I guess even Laurith explained he explained what that does, so maybe maybe it's not a vampire, but I'm still okay with how it went. I'm great. I'm content.
I'm great. I'm doing great. I'm
doing wonderful.
And while Laurith is explaining this to Saris, like why the Fae would bite at this point, he's like feeling so uncomfortable and awkward about the whole thing. And he's like trying to kind of skirt around it while he's explaining it. And my note was all caps, yee! So excited, living my best life. And then he says, but it's a slippery slope. If we bite someone, we can still lose ourselves to it. It takes an immeasurable force of will not to keep drinking. It's ... not something that's spoken about in polite company. And I wrote, oh, sexy and dangerous.
Do you think it always had that effect too? Like even in battle, when they bit someone, they're like, whoa, man.
What a rush.
I gotta walk off the field for a minute.
Somebody get this guy a cold shower.
He's like killing somebody. That person's like, oh, okay, yeah, no, this is.
No, go ahead, please.
No, I'm bummed.
Like half the battlefield is just like hundreds of Fae just like kind of like walking away and like retreating. Like what are all
The two
doing?
armies like clash and people start dying, and then the generals are like, why are they kissing? Like what?
Oh my gosh.
Yes, my next note here, they continue their conversation. Saris asks Laurith how he wound up in the middle of this war, and he says, oh, waves a hand non-committally. Well, let's see. I was a traveling singer once, if you can believe that. I was like, oh my gosh. It's like, totally forgot about this. This is great.
See, in my head, he was just Lorcan at that point.
Yeah.
Maybe because he said traveling singer and my brain went to like traveling circus.
Sure. No, this is the part where I was like, okay, I like Laurith. He's a singer. He's my friend. Big fan.
Oh, and then Laurith is talking about Kingfisher and how he, like, Saris asks him how he came to, like, be part of this war and stuff. And he says that he had almost died. And Kingfisher, quote, made me his brother by blood. He gave me a part of his soul. And I was like, guys, I figured out Kingfisher's real name. It's Tom Riddle. We figured it out. He horcruxed Laurith.
All right, well, that solves everything.
That's
See you
it. Thanks
guys
for
in
reading
next
with us,
week's
guys.
episode.
Yeah. So then Laurith is explaining that horcruxing someone that way is an ancient rite few know how to perform, but, quote, Fisher's father had almost died once, and his friend had used it to save him. And I, at first, was like, was Malcolm the friend? Because that would be kind of juicy. Or was it Finron, which is Fisher's dad? Although, if it was him, I feel like that would be extra shitty of Bellicon to send him on a mission he never came back from and then blame the Quicksilver stilling on him and then marry his wife. So I really hope that poor Fisher's dad was not the one who, like, anchored a part of his soul to Bellicon, because that would really suck if he actually is dead or does die at some point and then he's just, like, stuck, I guess, observing through Bellicon until he dies. That would be not very fun.
But when it
So I
says
hope it's
Fisher's
not
father, I would think it is actually Finron who almost died and got someone else's soul, not Bellicon, his fake father, his stepfather, right?
Oh, you're so right. I totally read that wrong.
Because
Fisher's father would be Finron. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. I was
so
reading
he's the
that
one that
as
almost
Bellicon.
died. But that could be that, like,
Oh.
he had some of Malcolm's, or it could have been Bellicon gave his soul
Yeah.
to Finron, or however that would have been.
Yeah, I totally read that as I was thinking Bellicon in my head, but that's not his dad. Duh.
That's just
Okay. That would be interesting.
I just feel like there's something going on, though, with Fisher's dad. I don't know what it is. But even Fisher,
Yeah.
later with the sword, is something like, oh, and his bones have been buried in Silvarin for however long. And I was like, are they? Because I kind of thought he was alive over there. But maybe, like, how does Kingfisher know that? I don't know.
Right.
We just get these little tidbits of dad. I just feel like something's there. Something's there.
We're not done with him. He's coming back.
Yeah, something's happening.
Something's
Even
happening.
if he's a ghost.
He's bound to Onyx. That's how he's watching.
Oh. Oh no.
That's just weird. Onyx is be in their room a lot.
Well, that's the downside. He doesn't have opposable thumbs. He's like scratching at the door, like, let me out, let me out. I didn't think it through.
Oh no.
Oh dear. Okay, wait. This might make more sense to me though. If it was Fisher's father, Finron, who almost died, and if it was Malcolm that did that, and maybe Malcolm has some sort of, maybe he's like holding it over Fisher's head somehow, and that was how he got him to like come with him for the last however many years or something. Because Malcolm does seem like weirdly possessive over Fisher, at least just from that like very brief interaction that they had, like calling him darling and stuff. I don't know.
Well, and
That was
it
weird to
sounds
me.
like he was hiding until he saw Kingfisher's power, and that's when he came out. Like,
Yeah.
I've been waiting for you, kind of thing. And everyone's like, Malcolm? Like, we'd never seen him.
Yeah.
Because Kingfisher had been missing all that time. So,
Right. And he's like some big scary guy, but then he's just like, yoo-hoo.
yoo-hoo, big summer blowout across, trying to trick everybody to come over for a good sale.
Good sale. Okay, so then he's talking about Sorsha, queen of the Lycian Fae, but he said she takes tonics and elixirs and is rumored to drink vampire blood to extend her life. And she still looks 30 years old, even though she's over 3,000. So I know she's Fae, and like Everlane said that Madra was human, but could Madra do crap like this as a human to extend her lifespan? That was like the first place that my mind went. So I'm assuming, assuming
But I don't
maybe
know
that's
how
part
she
of
has
what's happening.
access to vampires for
I don't know either.
2,000-ish years or however long, but
Yeah, I don't know.
Depends
And
on how long
then
the blood keeps. You don't have to have
Preservatives
vampires if you
and
got a pretty
whatnot.
good stock of it, yeah. Water it down a little.
And then this chapter ends with Laurith explaining that by his own hand, it says, quote, I'll make sure the piece of soul Kingfisher loaned to me finds its way back to him. And if the fates consider it just and I've done enough to earn a place at his side, I'll go quietly and happily with my brother into whatever lies beyond. And I wrote, okay, I like the Lorax, and now I'm scared he's going to die.
I was talking to Kyle about this, that I feel like we got a lot about Laurith in this chapter section, and that makes me worried for Laurith and the rest of this book.
I'm real nervous.
I'm glad.
I really like him.
Because I feel like...
You're glad?
I'm glad you're worried, because I feel like when we all first started reading, I'd say things like that, and you'd be like, what? They don't just show characters just to have them killed
I
off.
totally
but now
agree
I
with
feel
that.
like I've convinced you somewhat.
No, I agree with that. I hope it's just not the case.
Yeah, I get you.
I like him too. All right, and that brings us to chapter 25, which is called Ballard. And my first note is that we have some friends with the last name Ballard. So shout out to Emily and Josh for getting a chapter and a town named after you. Congrats.
Congrats,
Holla.
guys.
Oh, yeah. My first note for this chapter is just loving all the different creatures described here at Ballard. Some new fun creatures as they're walking through and passing everybody.
Yeah.
I highlight every single random creature just because I'm like, oh, that's so fun.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, what, a mountain troll? Like,
Yeah.
whatever random thing.
Little pixie.
And yeah, it's like, I don't do anything with those highlights other than when I'm going through for my notes. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's so cool. It's just for me. I
It's
just
just
really
fun.
enjoy it. Yeah.
And we got like 2 or 3 paragraphs of it here. It's fun.
So during one of Sarah's and Kingfisher's interactions, Sarah says, Fisher, reading all of this on my face, I thought, because he shook his head, looking a little perturbed. And last episode, Connor just like casually throws out like, and I still think Kingfisher reads minds. And I was like, what? We hadn't talked about that in like 2 or 3 episodes, but okay, like sure, whatever, Con. How would I have missed that? Because I would have picked up on that too. And I guess I missed it after that because it like happens 400,000 times. And then we find out it's actually true in this chapter section too. But I was on the hunt. As soon as you said that, I was like, I am not going to miss it again. And so I highlighted every single one. And then this is my good job, Con. You did it.
Wow, thank you. I'm
So
so
proud of you.
honored. Thank you so much. Hopefully that happens more than just one time in this whole book, but we'll see. So Kingfisher is talking about all the dangers of the realm here, like speaking of some of these other creatures and things, and he ends with Malcolm saying, quote, his hatred alone would wipe the world clean of life if it were given free reign. And then I just put this note here because then I started thinking about, like, is Kingfisher going to kill Malcolm and become a vampire king? Because that'd be kind of hot.
I'm here for that. But like, what is keeping Malcolm from free reign? Just this army right here on the sides of this river. This whole like weird back and forth with the armies just feels kind of like for that long of time nobody's tried another option or something.
Well,
to
and
go
it
to
feels
a different
like
place to cross or do something. Like it feels, is there a magical something
Yes.
that's stopping him? Is that why Kingfisher was gone for 100-something years? I don't know.
I guess when you live that long, there's really like no rush in getting your goal. You'd be like, yeah, we'll get it next year. We'll try again.
Well, it's like it almost feels like Malcolm's not trying that hard.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And he's just like chilling
Yeah.
there, almost distracting them, if anything. And he's off somewhere
Right.
secretly doing something else or something.
Yeah, because they're like, oh, this happens all the time. It's got to go fend him off again. It's cool. Like Kingfisher seems super chill about it.
Yeah. And then they just go back to living life and whatever and no problems. I just think the whole whatever at the darn is weird. Like in the grand scheme of things. Thank you. Kyle.
Yeah. And you would think that after how long Kingfisher's been with Malcolm, that he would have more information on like whatever's going on there and like whatever Malcolm is up to, but he obviously can't tell anyone So
But you could still
I
maybe
don't know.
act on it in a certain way.
Yeah, I'm confused about the lack of urgency, I guess.
Same.
All right, my next note here is when it says Sarah's found herself wanting to reach out and hold Kingfisher's hand, but then thought, would he accept that small comfort, or would he laugh and spit in my face? I thought, it seems a bit dramatic here. Maybe there's another option. I'm not sure.
For hand holding?
I had the same thing highlighted, but my note was just like, well, the worst thing they can say is no. Proceeds to get laughed at and spat on.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
that social anxiety really taking
Right,
over.
yeah. And while they're in Ballard and Wendy, we meet Wendy for the first time. She sees Kingfisher and says, I do love keeping an eye on this guy. Kingfisher sightings are very rare around these parts, but I knew I'd get lucky one of these days if I kept looking. I'm like, okay, just using this opportunity to theorize about his name and some kind of connection to like his parents, possibly. And then, yeah, this is what I mentioned, but also is Saris's bird tattoo a kingfisher? You know, if so, what is the deeper meaning? I feel like the whole kingfisher thing, maybe this was like a nickname of his. Maybe there was like, I don't know, maybe he like just really loved that bird. There was like a kingfisher around his childhood home or something. So that's the name that he got. I don't know, something in connection like with his parents and his name and why he's still going by it now. Like there's got to be a connection.
Because there's only he and one other person that have like bird-based names. So
yeah.
Who's the other person?
I don't know if I should tell you if you don't already know, I guess. No, no, there's
rude.
so like
What? Don't spoil things.
it's not a spoiler because it's just it was weird to me at first, but like that he has the only, I assume, like John said, nickname of Kingfisher. And it's not a specific bird, but like carrion swift. A swift is a kind of bird,
yeah.
and there's all kinds of carrion birds like vultures and stuff. That's a type of bird, but
Interesting.
I thought carrion meant like roadkill.
I thought carry on was
Yeah.
okay.
Kind of.
carrion is roadkill, but it is also an adjective used for birds that feed on that.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, I always thought it was weird that those two are the only ones with aviation related names. 'Cause, like,
ornithological names.
I even like looked up the other ones and I was like, well, maybe Renfiz is like a play on wren, but probably not. Or like Finwren could be a finch, but I have no idea.
Yeah.
But it's just too much of a stretch. But it is interesting that there's two. It's
Yeah.
weird that it happened twice.
I mean, a kingfisher, according to the one book that I've read, which is one of our children's books,
Yes.
it
Melfell.
yeah, they like purposely fall like for
Yeah.
a really, really long time, and they dive into water, pick up a little fish,
Oh,
and
yeah.
then they fly back up or whatever, and that's like their whole thing is like to specifically like fall really far, dive, and then like turn around and fly back
Yeah.
up. So like
That's why they're called
maybe
kingfishers.
He
Because they're the kings of fishing.
is like on some sort of literal fall, and then we'll have some epic rise or something.
This is his character
Oh,
arc.
Nice.
Yeah, where it feels like it's going down, and then it like dramatically comes up or something.
Yeah.
We brought it up
Love that.
earlier in the series too, where I was like, "Oh, his name's Kingfisher," much like we talked about that book as well. And I think Khan said like, "Oh, it could be like him jumping into the Quicksilver and pulling Saris into this world or whatever." There's several ways that I feel like you could see his name being taken that way, but no real solid evidence, I don't think.
Yeah.
I know, and then they call him the Fisher King,
Yeah.
and like
Which
Right.
confuses.
and then that makes me feel like it's
Yeah.
something completely different than a
Like, wait a
bird.
minute.
King of the fish.
Yeah.
I was glad that you put this note in here, though, John, because I kept forgetting that a kingfisher is a bird.
Yeah.
And this sentence that Wendy says here, like, really confused me. I was like, what is she talking about? And then I'm
Yeah,
glad
eye
that
on
you
the sky
explained
or
it.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
I was like, what? I don't know. But her bird tattoo is like, she keeps describing it as like right above her boob or right below her collarbone. But I'm like, that's your heart, baby.
Yeah.
He's on your heart.
I know, it's so cute.
Idiot. What a dumb. It is it is interesting that Wendy phrases it like that too, like that she was literally looking and possibly even saw like a literal bird. Like that's kind of how she words it here, instead of just like
Right.
Mm-hmm.
using an analogy and just being like, I look at the stars for a kingfisher, and here you are. I don't know.
Yeah. I thought maybe he could fly. And she was actually
Yeah.
looking for
fly.
him or something. I don't know. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's a
But then
bird.
obviously, Saris is. Oh my gosh.
Get that guy some glasses.
Oh, that was funny. And obviously, like, Saris is with him, and she notices Saris, and Fisher to Wendy says, she's a friend, a temporary one. Ouch. She'll be heading back to Zavarin soon, where she'll go back to her life and forget all about the things that have happened here. And I wrote, right, sure. Of course, yeah.
Go
Totally
back
Yeah,
home.
go back home.
Yeah. See, I have that highlighted too, and I was like, what if this is a subtle command though? Like secretly commanding her to forget everything that happened here when she does eventually
Kyle,
go back.
No.
And there will be some sort of like, oh, she goes back on some important thing, and then she's like, oops. And then someone else has to be like, you forgot everything. You need to come back.
No,
But-
the alchemists
Wow.
always remember or whatever.
Yeah,
She'll
but
be fine.
not if she made a
An
deal with
alchemist
it.
never forgets.
An alchemist always remembers.
And it never forgives.
Do you remember? Alchemists remember.
What did I say?
What did
Yeah,
I
I
just say?
I know they've sort of made a thing where it's like, hey, you better not command me to do anything else, but I sort of did think like, oh man, what if this is like a subtle little... I feel like it wasn't played up enough maybe to be that, but it'd be interesting
Yeah.
if it was.
Yeah, I
would
guess
hate that.
usually
hate
when he
that so
does
much.
compel her, it's like it's direct language, not
Yeah,
like, oh, she'll
to
be
her.
doing this. Yeah.
Yeah.
But kind of on like a similar note, I guess Saris was looking at Kingfisher's eye here and then started to hear the Quicksilver. And then I was thinking about a couple of chapters ago where he's been hiding these trace amounts of Quicksilver from her so that she can locate it and learn to like listen for it. And I'm just worried that he's training her to do that because he's worried about her being taken from him and he wants her to be able to find him through his
That's
haunted
cute,
eyeball
though.
from
Don't
like
be
a really
worried.
far
Aw.
distance. I know, but
Haunted
I'm nervous.
eyeball. Oh my god. I think that's cute.
It's cute, but it's sad. I'm like worried they're gonna get separated or something. And he like knows that something's coming, or like maybe because of what he knows about Malcolm, he's like worried Malcolm is gonna take her or something's gonna happen. I don't know.
Or he's gonna get taken with Malcolm.
Yeah. And then just be
Interesting.
him and his little possessed peepers all by himself.
Stop. I like that though. While you were talking though, I had a thought about the thing we were just talking about with like Kingfisher saying she's gonna go back home or whatever. That means Kingfisher thinks that's the truth. That she's like going to head back to Zilvarin and forget everything
Maybe
that happened here, right? Because he can't like tell a lie. So at least in that moment, that's what Kingfisher thinks is true. Maybe.
Maybe.
Well, and he said soon. Soon doesn't really mean anything. I feel like when you're Fae.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. But still, he's like thinks it's a temporary thing, or is saying it is at least,
I mean,
until they go back to the house and then she gets all her tattoos.
Yes, she does.
Anyway, they're on her hands. That's
You.
jazz tattoo.
Yeah. Well, that one's a saxophone.
Check out these runes, boys.
Ooh,
Hit it.
is that a trombone? Oh, that's actually kind of funny.
Thank you.
My next note here is probably one of my favorite of this chapter section. This is when he's taking her back to the little house there in Ballard, and they're heading there, and it says, from her perspective, it says he flexed out his hands by his sides a couple of times before slipping them into his pockets. He didn't seem to know what to do with them. And I was like, bro, this is a total Mr. Darcy move here from Pride and Prejudice. I got to ask Callie if this is intentional, but I love it. Pride and Prejudice is one of my favorite movies. So this was just total. This was great for me to read. I was
had
like,
it
oh
highlighted
yeah,
too. The hand flex
it's
is
amazing. The
iconic.
hand flex for
Yes.
sure.
Yeah. So good.
We all know what it means.
Oh yeah, 100%. He wanted to hold her hand.
That's right.
Not spit in her
That's
face.
what it means.
I can't wait to laugh at her and spin her face.
Fun fact though, John does love Pride and Prejudice so much that I walked down the aisle at our wedding to one of the songs from the soundtrack.
Cute.
Oh, yeah.
That was
He picked
that
the
was
song you
John's-
walked down the
Oh,
aisle.
Yeah, he
yeah.
picked it. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, and that's what he picked. Pride and Prejudice.
Nice.
Yep.
Cute.
Maybe we need to read Pride and Prejudice here. Or Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. Whichever version you'd rather.
Why not both?
Compare and
Have three of us
contrast.
read one and one of us read the other and be like, what are you...
It could be like
Did you
one of
guys
those
miss the zombie
games
attack?
where somebody has to pretend they read the same book
Yeah.
as everyone else, and nobody knows who's reading the zombie version and who's reading the regular one.
That's fun. Oh, okay. So speaking of Kingfisher totally being a mind reader, he says to Saris, after she hears the Quicksilver say Anorath more, he's obviously all freaked out too. And he says, the words you said back there, why did you say them? And in her POV, she says, I'd said them out loud. Damn. And I was like, mind reader. I was just chuckling at her saying, I'd said them out loud. I feel like that happens in every book where there's like somebody can read somebody's mind and they're like, I can't believe I said that out loud. I thought I just thought that.
So maybe for once they should be like, yeah, you've been saying it for a while. Like, it's really off-putting.
You're screaming your thoughts in my general direction. So, okay, she says, the Quicksilver pushed those words, meaning Anorathmore, into my mind when you forced me to hold it back at the Winter Palace. What do they mean? And Kingfisher says, it's better if you don't ask. I can't tell you anyway, so just don't. And I was like, is this somehow also part of his oath to Malcolm? But now that you're talking about how he is an oathbound fae, I'm just confused about why he can't tell her that, but he knows what it means. But him saying, I can't tell you that was like red flag, like high alert for me.
If it wasn't for that little bit of Quicksilver that she held the first time, if it was just Kingfisher's eyeball that was saying it, I would think maybe it has something to do with like their mating bond or something like that. Like, and it was
That they
like,
definitely
screaming
have.
that.
Yeah.
100%. That it's like
Oh, yeah.
screaming that, but because that other Quicksilver was not attached to Kingfisher, I guess I don't have any idea.
Yeah,
Unless it's
I don't-
like a location or something where Quicksilver is made or happens or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
I don't know. I want more answers. I just came out of this section with so many questions. And then lastly, this is like sort of a God's Watch note, but not really. We just find out that Fisher's mom was named Edina of the Seven Towers. And I just wanted to point out that there are 7 gods in the Corcoran. So that's really it. There's nothing really to go off there other than the number 7. But, I will take anything I can get. So.
Yeah, what are the 7 towers?
I don't know.
I don't know.
They did
One for
mention
each
at one
god
point-
makes sense to me, but I don't know.
Maybe, but in Laurith's song later, it says like the Fae in their towers, like during the battle or something. But I think that's the only other mention of it that we've gotten.
Could be
Maybe
the different
Irene will show up.
courts, perhaps.
Maybe
So she's in
Adina
the all
is
7.
is Irene's great grandmother or something.
That's what it is.
Yeah, that's totally it. All right, so chapter 26, Ash and Cinders. Saris finally left Kingfisher's room to get water for him. This was after he wakes up and he's like screaming in pain. And so she's been taking care of him and she finally leaves to get him some water. And while she was gone, it says, quote, Onyx had jumped up onto the bed and tucked himself into the male's side, resting his head on Fisher's stomach. He whined when I entered the room, his eyes moving from me to Fisher as if he were trying to tell me something. And I wrote, what a very good boy, Onyx. He's just the best little guy. He's a helping. He just wants to make sure Fisher's okay.
What do you think he was trying to tell her?
Well, I did
boy.
think maybe this was my boy. I did think maybe there was more to this, that there was something specific going on that like Onyx could sense. But it did say, I think Fisher was the one who said in this section that winter foxes or whatever he is are like supernaturally good at sensing danger or something like that. So like that Onyx would have been freaking out if there was some kind of imminent threat or something. And so I was thinking about that here as like, I don't know, like he obviously didn't think that Fisher was like a danger because of whatever was happening to him. But I don't know. I wasn't like fully sure if it was the Quicksilver that was causing all of that, or if it had something to do with like his oath with Malcolm, or maybe he just wanted Saris to help with the Quicksilver or something. I have no idea. He's a fox. I don't know how much he knows.
Yeah, I don't know, but it was cute.
It was cute, though. He's just such a good boy.
But whenever, like, Saris, like, walks in and sees it for the first time, and Fisher's trying to, like, kick her out for forever, and she gets in water, and she's being helpful and stuff. And he's finally like, okay, you can go. Like, you can leave now. And she's finally like, I'm not effing around, Fisher. If you have any respect for me, if you care about me even the tiniest, most minuscule amount, you will never, ever compel me again. And she's trying to, like, convince him to let her stay. And he agrees to that. And I'm like, what a time to make a deal, Saris. When he's at his best, that's the time to bring this up. I was like, geez, girl, give him a minute.
And I was mistaken. This was made after he made the whole she leaves and forgets thing. I thought this was before then. So maybe there is some weight to that still.
No, because again, he doesn't say like you won't, you will
he
leave,
doesn't
and you will do
direct her.
whatever. Yeah. So I'm not for that. Also, because I just don't like it.
Oh, fair.
Valid.
Yeah.
Valid.
And then they end up like staying up, and she's trying to like distract him and stuff. And she tells like some of her childhood about like her father, and then we get this really long story about Saris's mother, and it was just really like it was one of the saddest short stories I have ever like heard. And like what happened specifically after she died and like to her body, I literally could not shake that for a while after reading it. And I was talking to Kyle about it a little bit afterwards and how like really freaked out it made me. And it just made me feel so bad for Saris and Hayden too. And like just made it really real, like as a mother and like thinking your children are left so young and all the things. But this is just, I guess, a shout out to Callie for like in a half a chapter introducing and ending a character. And it was so impactful to me. Like, it was just really good writing, I guess, in that moment, or just like the story itself. It was a lot, and I just feel like so much more for Sarah in all of that. That was really good. And then also like crazy that Saris's house was the first quarantined in this fake plague thing. That all started then. It wasn't around for like a super, super long time. Kind of like all this other stuff feels like it's been around, and she's just dealt with whatever. Like that's what she was born into, but that's like the first house for all of that and all the craziness that's happened after that with the plague and the weird bag things that all the guards hold, and like all of that's so new. So
yeah, that was super interesting.
I was very surprised by that, but that whole part of the chapter was a lot.
Yeah, it was. And at the end of this chapter, Kingfisher like says that his mom was killed too, and that they have that in common. But we just saw this like statue of her at Ballard with like her title on it and stuff. So it just was making me think like, was his mom some kind of martyr? Did she stand up to like Bellicon or Malcolm or something and like die trying to protect others? Like, especially after his whole rant about how he's not a lord in this section because like a lord or a lady would protect their people. And it was like this whole kind of, he had this sort of heroic mindset, I think, when he was thinking about like being a lord. And so I feel like that might make sense considering if that was his mom, if that was something that she did or went through, and he's like comparing himself to that. I just thought that was interesting.
I would like to know like how old he was when she died too. Like where in his story, like was it pre-Quicksilver, post-Quicksilver, like you know, or where that like lies in his story as well, and like how that would affect.
Because I don't think we know
and how that.
I don't think we know anything about that timeline. We just know that he was 10 when his mom married Bellicon.
And she had Everlane, right?
Yeah, so that would have been hundreds of years later.
So I literally just realized this now. Don't we learn from Everlane that she like died giving birth to her?
Oh.
Doesn't Everlane tell Saris that?
I think she does.
But I'm now wondering how she phrased it. If it made us think that that's what happened, and maybe
Bellicon was mad he didn't.
Maybe that's not actually what happened, or
And
maybe they're just phrasing it differently from like Everlane's perspective, because obviously she was a baby, so that's what she's been told.
Yeah.
But Kingfisher's like kind of knows what really happened.
Yeah, I had to go back and look at part of that today. That was from chapter 11 when Everlane was like telling her some stuff, because I kept thinking that Fisher's father was dead. And then I had to go back and like read that part again because it just said that he was like sent on a mission and never came back.
Yeah,
to
Kingfisher
Zilvarin.
says in this one that his bones are buried in Zilvarin, but I always thought he was alive.
Right.
Yeah, because Everlane just says, when Fisher was 10, the king sent his father on a mission to Zilvarin. He never returned. That's when the gateways were stilled.
Yeah.
And then the king said that Finron, Fisher's father, was responsible for the Quicksilver stilling.
Right.
But Kingfisher said it was Madra.
Mm-hmm. I'm like 99% certain that Everlane mentions that.
I don't remember specifically, but I do remember that Belicon was mad that he didn't get a son.
He wanted a son of his own, and as quickly as
Kingfisher
possible.
ruined it, or whatever. That.
Mm-hmm. It was Fisher's fault that she wasn't strong enough to produce another male heir. Her pregnancy with me was difficult. None of her healers were surprised when she passed shortly after I came into the world.
Ooh,
but
yeah.
Belicon, ... according to the king, everything's always Fisher's fault. But our mother's death wasn't because of him; it was because of me.
Yeah.
But it
See
says
how
shortly after. How
that's
short
what I,
is
that's
the
what I
world?
mean.
Right.
Short.
But yeah, in the moment, the phrasing kind of makes it sound like, you know, it was maybe from like complications from childbirth, because they were only really supposed to have like one. Like it's rare for the Fae to have two.
Right.
So we get all that knowledge and then thinking maybe that it has to do with that. But now, yeah, I'm thinking after Fisher's comment here, I was like, oh, maybe there's some foul play. For sure.
Interesting.
All of it's so weird. I have so many questions.
And
the
what
whole thing
sucks
is
the
weird.
most is having to wait every week.
I
Like, I
know.
know I could just easily get the answers in like a day if I just got to
Or
read this
not.
book. Like,
What if, but
I
maybe
know,
not.
but like, you know, as many as I could, at least I wouldn't.
I know.
It's going to be tough in the next chapter section too, because it's got like shortened since we added the chapter for this week.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, all right. So chapter 27 is called Marked. And as soon as I heard the chapter name, I was like, tell me we are learning something about the tattoos, please. I need answers. And then there was the whole thing with the bite later. So then I was like, oh, maybe that's what Marked meant. But then there is tattoo stuff.
There is,
So I
yeah.
have lots on that later. But I
Win-win.
was excited for that. Yeah, best of both worlds.
My note here is when they are in bed and Saris is debating whether or not to, you know, make a move. It says we'd both get up and get on with our day, and that would be it. A door between us would be closed. Or ... Or, and I highlighted one of the ors and just wrote, or, just kind of, you know, really diving into that or. It's like, you, come on, or get to the next option. Come on. And we do.
She sure does. Yeah.
We do. Do we ever? I highlighted many things in this next section, but the only ones I will
Same.
mention right now are the part where he's totally mind reading her, and I was just like, it's here, and it's here, and I was freaking out where it was like as if Fisher could hear me beckoning to him, and it's as if he could read my mind, or I'd imagined the words when Kingfisher talked directly to her, and then she's saying like bite me, and he like shakes his head like, no, I'm not doing that, even though she didn't actually say the words.
I can't.
I can't. And then where she's like, the words were ragged, desperate. They were inside my head. And I was like, yes, thank you. They're inside your head. Yes, continue.
Pay attention, girl.
I know. And then it's like, after all the things, she's just sitting there, whatever, living her life. And it's like, and side note, Fisher and I were now randomly capable of speaking into each other's minds. And then moves on. I was like, girl, that's it? You're giving me one sentence? Like, when did this start? Like, they can do it back and forth. Like, is it just between them? Or, like, can he or she, like, who has the power? Can they do it to other people as well? Or is it just, like, a
Right.
bond thing? Like, like, what? Why are we not freaking out at this? Like, there's so many things.
My
I'm
note there was
freaking
like,
out.
my note there was like in quotes, now and randomly. Okay.
Side note. Like, no,
Just
not a
now.
side note. Main note. Main note to the top of the list.
It's just the Quicksilver playing middleman. Like, she'll say something, and then it'll tell him, and then he says something, and it'll
Oh my
It's
god.
like a little receptor.
Gosh. I mean, maybe.
Little
It's like a little antenna. Anyways, I'm
his
freaking
eye
out about
vibrates.
that.
Oh, got a thought.
They're not freaking out, but I am. So I just wanted to
Yeah.
put all that in there. And shout out to Con
As
again
you should
for
be.
guessing it all.
Thank you
And
so much.
then all capitals, many exclamation marks. He bit her.
He bit her. Ah!
Oh, I'm so excited. But I just point out that earlier Laurith said that it would take a lot of will, like really strong will to be able to stop doing that. And then when Kingfisher does it, says, then he ripped his mouth away from my skin and roared like he was dying. No, not like he was dying, like he was being reborn. And I was,
Oh.
I don't know. Is
Did
that
you
like
get
the
that? Did you get that one in the emoji?
Oh yeah, I did. The Phoenix.
You got it. Yeah, the Phoenix.
I know, that's why I went,
Phoenix.
got it, because I got a note on that one. Good job. But yeah, is this like a vampire-y thing? Is this a mating bond thing? Is this just a really great sex thing? Like, there's so many. Could be
All of
three.
the above, probably. Yes.
So,
That's my vote.
but I freaked out, full on freaked out. And then I was literally reading that he bit her. And Kyle walks in the room, and I just put my hand up, like, nope. And I'm just reading. And
Go
he
away.
just backed out of the room. I finished the chapter, and then I texted him, did you need something? Sorry.
The house is on fire. I already have the kids outside.
Whenever you're
Good
ready
luck.
to not die. Come on out.
Oh my gosh. Oh, so they fall asleep at some point after this, and Sarah wakes up, and her first thought upon waking is fresh, hot bread, buttery, delicious. And I put in a gif from that old, was it a Bob Evans commercial where it says,
So,
baked in a buttery, crispy crust, and it's like 2 minutes of just this old couple trying to say that one line for the commercial.
We didn't know what that was, and you guys showed us when we were in Nashville.
Oh, yeah.
that was good.
I still think about it all the time. So I have the gif of the part where the wife like tries to say it after the husband's like failed 80 times, and then she says it wrong, and it's gold. You should please go watch it. Just type go to YouTube and typed in baked in a buttery crispy crust. It'll be like a minute and a half very well spent. You're welcome. All right, so I'm officially calling this tattoo watch because I have all these notes and questions about tattoos. So we got lots
tattooed
of
watch.
a tattooed watch. Yes.
Right twice a day.
So Sarah now has tattoos all over her fingers and the backs of her hands. So the one on her right hand is like the span of her whole hand. It's made of overlapping, interlocking runes. And one of them is like metallic-y. It's like an iridescent blue-green color, which is super interesting. And Kingfisher's like, oh yeah, it's just like alchemist stuff. And he lists off a bunch of different elements. And he says a lot of them are related, but he doesn't say all of them are related. And we don't get any more information on that. And then the design on the back of her left hand almost resembles a flower if you squint at it long enough. But when Fisher like runs a finger over this little flower-looking tattoo, it says his features became utterly unreadable. And then he says the one on the left means blessed one. So I'm also flagging that because that is weird to me that he like has this weird reaction to it. So ultimately I just have more questions, but Saris jokingly sort of says, do I get to choose from different designs every time we sleep together or something? Fisher says, no, the marks with a capital M, by the way, the marks are chosen for you. They won't be there after a month. If you decide not to accept them, they'll be gone for good. So again, is this like a mates thing? I feel like maybe it is. It has to be. Is she like somehow accidentally using her alchemist power with like the Quicksilver inside of Kingfisher or something? Because they're like, you know, bonding in that moment. Or maybe the Quicksilver has like decided that she's worthy and she's becoming some kind of a weapon. But that wouldn't make sense as something that she could just politely decline. Like with Laurith, it cut his hand and it was like, nope, I'm your sword now. You have no say in this matter. So I don't think it's that.
The Quicksilver would have to bond with her, just like it was in the sword or whatever, or in Kingfisher.
Yeah. So I feel like it's a mating thing. I don't know. But then he like covers up all the other tattoos, but then she points at the bird tattoo and says, you told me you couldn't take this one back. And all humor leaves his face. And he says, no, I can't take that back. And I'm sorry for that.
But the lines just after that, she narrates that he wasn't talking about the bird tattoo. He's talking about the bite mark at her throat in that moment. That's what he's looking at.
Yes, in this moment here. But back in chapter 23, when Saris was like freaking out about the bird tattoo, she told him to take it back. And he said, it doesn't work like that. And then he said, I don't know what to tell you. Feel free to have someone cover it if it upsets you so badly. But then he covered all of her other tattoos except for the bird. So I feel like that is different somehow.
I don't know. Maybe he just couldn't take it back, but he could have covered it, but he didn't cover that one just to get on her nerves or something.
Maybe.
No, I feel like he's
Love.
laying a claim. He's like, other Fae
he
would
is.
know what that means, even if she doesn't. And so
Because he
she
says
might
they'll all
hide
disappear. Yeah, he says they'll all disappear in a month if she chooses not to have them. But for now, just
That
cover him,
weird
uncover him. He
timeline,
doesn't
though.
care.
It feels like a mating bond thing.
Oh, it's definitely a mating bond. But like,
It has to be.
again, in the world of Fae, where time and they're just lazy and they take
Yeah.
their. Why a month? Like, they're so random.
Think
Yeah,
it
to them,
over,
that's like, oh, that's
sleep
like a
on it.
temporary tattoo. That's just
Yeah.
like, that's whatever.
Sleep on
Well,
it once or twice.
yeah.
Sleep with
Yeah.
him once or twice. Is that what you do?
Sleep around, see if anybody else has any tattoos you want to keep.
Yeah, you know.
Well, regardless of what these tattoos mean or where they came from, what matters is where they are now, who put them there, and if they were placed with the full knowledge and consent of the wearer, which they weren't, which seems like an OSHA violation. Take it away, OSHA boys!
OSHA boys. Is that your official name, the OSHA boys?
I love this.
Sounds like a boy band.
That feels like some merch that we need. The
The
OSHA,
OSHA
boys.
boys. Yeah, with a little hard hat with the little butterfly like Kyle has.
Hard out with a butterfly.
There we go.
Oh,
Oh, they're back. The OSHA boys.
hey boys.
Wow.
Oh, you hate getting called in
Welcome
on a
back.
weekend. All right. All right, what do we got here? Looks like someone receiving some unrequested and unwanted ink. This is not the first interaction. Should have called earlier. Clear violation of OSHA. And I read 13B.2. Consent must be enthusiastic, informed, and narratively appropriate. 13-B.4. All glyphs that bind, brand, or broadcast must be explained in no fewer than 3 riddles that are solvable by non-Fey minors.
That's right. And let's not forget 9-C.7. No tattoo shall hum, weep, whistle, glow, or flutter without warning. Not to mention the recent addendum to body alterations. No soul shall be made to bear signs or sigils on their skin, scales, bark, or otherwise, whose meanings are hidden, half-told, or encoded in riddles they cannot reasonably be expected to solve without the aid of at least on one trickster, god, and or mystical reference map.
Yeah, and we don't try to be those guys, but this is some stuff I'd expect to see in the spring court, okay? I don't like bringing the hammer down, but that's what keeps the courts running, am I right? So let's stick to the guidelines. We should all be good, okay?
That's right. And remember, if you do receive a magical tattoo under your knowledge and consent, then you should be provided a reasonable means to understand the meaning and magics within the tattoo by way or course of a prophecy, dream, song, or pamphlet.
And remember, if it glows, grows, sings, or stings, declare it in triplicate. We'll see you guys next time. Keep an eye on it.
Yeah, keep an eye on it.
Thank you, OSHA boys.
Thank you.
Wow.
Prophecy, dream song, or pamphlet. Oh,
That was
well, I'm so
amazing.
glad to have that reminder just in case that ever happens to me.
Yep.
Yeah. Can
Gotta
I
get
get that
those-
manual in print?
In pamphlet form.
In pamphlet
Pamphlet.
form?
The
That'd be
Fey OSHA pamphlet.
Put that on the shirt too.
Oh, man. Just gotta watch out. Those violations are popping up. But we'll
Good
move
job.
on for now. Chapter 28. Just Ask. Gotta say, this chapter title gave me some preemptive PTSD. I'm glad it didn't end up meaning what I thought it would. But I was like, this better not be some like, you gotta ask the right questions, girl. I was like, don't do that to me again. I'm not doing it again.
Put it in the OSHA pamphlet.
Yeah.
I am just here in this chapter to once again proclaim that I love Carrion Swift and every single line of his banter. I highlighted all of it. Read the chapter again. It's great. I love him. That's all.
It was good. Some of my favorite are when he just tells her, like, have you thought about asking it to meld with, like, the silver? And she's like, psh, psh, don't be ridiculous. Of course I haven't. And he's like, oh, why not? Like, that's like the answer. And then she's like so mad that It's the truth. And all he does is like, I mean, you could ask it. It seems like pretty simple. And then he literally like pops his collar off his coat. Just relaxes. Like,
I missed
Carrion. So funny.
Love
And
it.
then like later when she is talking to it and it's like serious and deep and the audiobook narration is so cool with like both the guy
Yeah.
and the girl narrators talking at like different pitches at different speeds at some points too.
Yeah.
It's so cool. If you have not done the audiobook on this, you're really missing out. But it's like serious, serious, serious. And then all of a sudden it's like Carrion being like, "You're making a weird face. Are you talking to it?" She's like, "Yes, shh, be quiet." It's so funny.
He's like, "You look like you're constipated."
So funny.
Just love it.
At some point while she's talking to the Quicksilver says, "The die is not yet cast." Very common phrase. But it was spelled D-Y-E when I was reading it on the Kindle. I didn't recognize because I read the audiobook first. But I looked like everywhere for the evidence and history of this phrase, "the die is cast," because I was certain it meant like a game die. Because I saw no other examples of it being die. So I was like, do you guys think this is some sort of wordplay in this book or just a mistake?
Well, I'm assuming that it was maybe a mistake from when it was self-published, because on my Kindle it's spelled D-I-E. So I don't know if maybe there was an update at some point.
I literally just today, like before we recorded
That's
this
so
episode is
weird.
when I made this note, but I don't know. Yeah, I thought it was
Chapter
weird.
28.
I even
Mine
thought
is
like,
DYE.
well, like,
Again.
oh, is it?
I searched.
I just searched cast
both.
because it's
I wrote,
in there several times, so I could stop at chapter 28.
but I've had
Mine was
like a
DYE,
tiny.
I don't know.
I had a couple tiny things that said like it says something in the book, but the narrator says something different. Like one time it was this male, and they said this man instead. Even though
Yeah.
it was talking about one of the Fae. Like I've had little things like that, but
I
nothing.
don't know.
But I'm
I've
also
noticed,
not
like
the person to be like, DYE, I must now research.
Well,
Like
when
you
I was
do.
when I was in the audiobook, I was like, oh yeah, the die's not yet cast. But then it said the DYE die in here, so I was like, oh, I wonder if that will be important later, because like I could also see like the die.
It's backwards. Dang it.
I
No, I
got.
see it.
No, it's right.
It's right for me.
I searched first just die is cast, and it came up from chapter 7, where it says
weird.
DYE in chapter 7.
Wait, chapter 7? Oh, mine says DIE in chapter 7 too.
Weird. Are you using Kindle Unlimited?
Yeah, I think so.
So am I.
Let me pull mine up because now I'm curious if I'm just insane.
I did have to like offload and reload the audiobook though, because I was trying to get Whisper Sync to turn on. Or not the audiobook, I mean the ebook. Because I was trying to get
Also,
Whisper Sync to work.
I downloaded
got
Quicksilver
that to
like
work.
400 years ago on my Kindle when I first got Kindle Unlimited, and I was like, "Oh my god, I'm
same.
so reading this book and this book and this book," and then I never did. So
And then you
maybe
told me that I wasn't allowed to.
but like Kyle and I share a Kindle account, so he's gonna be reading my old.
Oh. Well, yeah, because
copy.
it wasn't picked up for traditional publishing until December, I want to say. Or the traditionally published copies came out in December, but it was self-published last year in June.
Yeah,
So
in
that would be
28 it
the-
says DYE.
Yeah.
So
DYE
I
is not cast.
searched it out in my Kindle version, and for all instances of the die is cast, it is the wrong word. So it may have just been a mistake. There's no spoilers because this only goes to chapter 30, so I will try to show you the same way you showed me.
Weird, yeah. Huh.
Weird.
Yeah, mine is correct, but I did have to re-download the ebook, so maybe there was an update.
I don't know.
Okay, so I looked it up in the physical book, and it is DIE.
Yeah, so and that's the traditionally published copy.
Yeah.
I see.
So
Nice. Okay.
I don't know.
Interesting.
Shout out to editors everywhere.
Yeah.
Editor who lives inside my Kindle, get on it.
They did. That's the previous version.
There was one point though where it said like the snow skirled around, and I was like, "Is this supposed to say swirled?"
There's been a few
That-
like mixed up homophones in my book, I guess, aside from just die as well, where it's like I think she
Yeah.
used the wrong word maybe, but
But the narrator said skirled, and then I went to that point just to see it in the ebook, and it said that too with like with a K.
I'm rewatching How I Met Your Mother, and you said swirled, and then I thought swarly.
Swarly, swirls barking.
Swirls. The snow swirled lead around. Swirled. Anyway, sorry.
All right. Chapter 29, Ballad of the Ajun Gate. I highlighted this chapter title and wrote, "Yay, history!" So excited.
I love that. I had just all the silly things highlighted. I feel like it was this whole challenge between Carrion and Laurith where they were gonna like hit the tree with the dagger or whatever, and Carrion like epically loses, and that whole interaction is funny. And then Saris asks if Laurith can whittle because he wants him to help with like the wolf on the sword and all of the things, and Carrion just says like, "Oh, he probably whittles every spare moment of his life, and he probably wins whittling competitions." Carrion.
That's the best.
So good. And then Saris goes off and makes the freaking coolest sword ever. And for her to be like, "This is the first sword I've ever made." And then it's like got all this like intricate stuff and like words on it and like vines and stuff. And then of course the cool wolf face. Like it's just the coolest I can only imagine. And so guys, if you find fan art of that sword, I would love to see the sword. So
please.
You don't need to find it now in this moment, Kyle, but later. He's looking for it. I don't think it'll be in your room.
And then the moment that Laurith asks if he could hold the new sword, I was like, uh-oh, is it about to cut him and bind itself to him? Darcy's gonna be pissed.
Darcy? It's not her name.
I can't get her name right in my head. It's always Darcy now.
It's Danby.
Danby, right, yeah.
Isn't it actually like Danya or something like that?
It is Danya.
Okay, good.
It is.
In my head, though, it always goes Darcy, and then I'm like, it's not that. It's Danby. No, it's not Danby. It's Danya. Danimals. Right. No.
One time. We'll get it eventually.
Yeah.
Well, they go outside, and they see the cool, like, aurora in the sky, the aurora borealis. What is that called? Aurora borealis?
It's the aurora, yeah.
Sure. Oh, it's just the aurora, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So they go outside and they see that, and it's really awesome. And then Laurith just like breaks out into song because, as everyone should in cool moments, like it's a musical episode basically right here, and he just breaks out into song. But like he gets through like the first couple verses, and then it says Fisher tensed and the muscles in his jaw popped.
Oh, I missed that one. Wow.
Drinkies.
Cheers.
Anyone else just picture him walking out of his tent and start beatboxing to the aurora?
Like it's not like a soft ballad.
He's like, "Oh!"
Kingfisher went
like,
down.
"Yes, yes!"
And then Kingfisher's jaw popped because he's just embarrassed. He's over there like, "Oh my God, this guy again."
The sick
Wish he'd go
rat
back
battle
to
of the
whittling.
Ajun Gate. Yeah, go back to whittling. Oh, I was so excited about this ballad, though. I was eating this up, and when it starts, the second line says, "Of the day the last drake woke and rose from the cold," and I was like, "The last drake? Omnomshakrai? More dragon lore?" So pumped for this. And then Omnomshakrai is described as observing the world through ink-black mad eyes, and then the drinkers of night pledged him death and decay, that he'd feast on his foes, and the flesh he did flay so long as he rose and joined them in war against the Fae. And this makes me a little nervous for Kingfisher, with all the descriptions of his eyes being like wholly black, and his unexplained oath to Malcolm, and like his unwillingness.
Omnomshakrai or
well, no, but just that like he is the dead dragon.
I mean,
no, but just that like it was saying that the dragon's eyes were like ink black mad eyes, but he had like made an oath basically with the vampires to like join them in the war or whatever. So it just makes me nervous with like his unwillingness to accept the title of Lord as well, that maybe there's more. I don't know, maybe that's like a far reach, but these were little connecty things that I just felt weird about.
Yeah, I don't know. I would love to know more about the dragons though. Like
me
all
too.
Of them. Not just this one, but all of them.
Because it's definitely not the last one.
No, absolutely not. They're probably in the in mountains.
Oh yeah, with the Galarian Fae, or in the Omnimaran Mountains.
Yes.
Yeah.
All of those. All of the places that are in that map at the front of the book. Anyway, so Laurith sings this epic ballad, and it's freaking sweet and amazing, and I can only imagine how wonderful his voice is. And Carrion goes, It's effing outrageous that he can sing too. That's the first line after. It's so good.
I love him so much. That made me laugh out loud. That's so good. But I love this whole sword claiming moment for Laurith. I was like feeling so proud of him. I mean, everything about it was cool, but I was especially like excited because he had such a big part in like crafting it, but then also hearing more of his background like before this and how he's like so bonded with Kingfisher, like literally, and just with everything they've been through. And he's been, I think Kingfisher said he's been part of the Lupo Prolio for like 400 years without a god sword. Mm-hmm. So this was just like a really cool moment. I was so pumped for him.
Yes, and as Laurith is kind of like freaking out that the Quicksilver has basically like chosen him for the sword, and he's freaking out about Danya's reaction. And Saris basically says, like, you deserve it. Fisher mentions that he's been that long without a god sword. Like, Danya can wait, like, her turn. She can wait for 400 or whatever. And
yeah.
Saris is like, you deserve it. Like, you helped make it. You helped me forge it. You just sang that song. And all of them are looking at her like, what song? Like, what are you talking about? And the Quicksilver, like, kind of replies to her here, only to her this time. And she says, that's what you meant, that you'd take it, like talking about the song, and it would disappear, that no one would remember it. And the Quicksilver is like, ours now, ours, ours, ours. And I was like, it's so cool, dude. Like, so crazy. It was just a wild, really cool, like, little characteristic that she adds to whatever this Quicksilver is. Just, I don't know, just super interesting.
Mm-hmm. The Fae deals in general in this book are what I always want out of books that involve Fae. Like stuff like that where it's like just offhanded deals that you make that could literally change the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's wild how quickly everyone just forgot. And like it didn't even have like a pause or a moment. Like it just like the conversation flowed so seamlessly from them talking about the song and all the things to it just being
that was
literally
crazy.
Gone. And it just makes me wonder like how much their world is affected by that, like at all times, and nobody even knows
that kind of magic in general.
Yeah, because and like nobody even knows what's lost or forgotten or changed or whatever. Like at any moment.
That's a great point.
That's like to me gives me so much anxiety to live in a world like that. So I don't know, but I guess it's cool to read about.
It is. I'm so curious though, because Sarah says, "Why can I still remember it?" And then the Quicksilver responds, "We remember, so the alchemist remembers." So I'm like, what the heck else can she remember? Can she remember stuff that she wasn't around for? If the Quicksilver remembers it?
I mean, maybe the Quicksilver can tell her, and she won't be able to tell anybody else or something. I don't know.
Or if she does find another alchemist, maybe that could be knowledge passed down. But
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I did respond to your note that she might remember the 21st night of September, or the 5th of November, or the Titans or the Alamo, or me.
Or Kyle. She's like, all of a sudden, Kyle?
That was more of a reference to Coco's Remember Me, but yes, she might know me.
Remember me.
Oh, I have to say goodbye.
That's amazing. We got him to sing twice in one episode.
I told you he's got a decent voice. He just has to use it.
Decent.
Great. 10 out of 10.
It's that kind of comment that keeps me in the audience.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
It's because if Kyle did sing on the podcast, we'd be like, ugh, it's effing outrageous that he can sing too.
Exactly. That's exactly
right.
what he did.
I don't know about all that.
Else. He holds back for the rest of us. For
It would
me,
be unfair.
Who has bajillion student loans to learn how to sing. It's fine. It's fine.
Oh, that's great. Oh my gosh. Okay, but then this chapter ends with the angel's breath. And the chapter ended and I stopped and I wrote, I don't know what this means, but I'm excited.
I'm excited because Kingfisher got so excited.
Yeah.
And he like seemed so stoic and so just like
That's very true.
I don't know. But he was like freaking out for his friend, which was also exciting. That he
So
loves his
cute.
friend so much.
His little Horcrux friend.
I know. They're, what is it in Throne of Glass? They're soul friends.
Oh yeah, they're soul friends. Literally, they're soul friends.
Soul friends. Aw, so cute. Chapter 30 is called Swear It. And this is like right after she makes a sword, this whole thing happens, and it just says, Kingfisher looked at me like I was the most astonishing thing he'd ever seen.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
like, because you are, baby. Like, you're everything. I'm so proud of you.
You're everything.
She is.
My next note was like very shortly after that. I think this is when he like picks her up and is taking her to his tent to like help her take a bath or whatever. And he says, I was wrong, you know. You are a good thief. And Sarah says, what have I stolen? And I wrote, my heart. Duh.
Your heart or Kingfisher's heart?
Both.
Aw.
But no, yeah, obviously he's referencing that. So it's just like, oh.
Yeah, because he doesn't finish the sentence.
does,
He just doesn't
yeah.
answer her.
Yep. Oh, Fisher.
Yes. Well, and then Connor and I always talk about different times that they wash each other's hair in books and how that's like a
Yeah.
whole conversation we have on the regular. And
Yes.
literally we'll be like, this is a great book, blah, blah, blah. They do wash each other's hair, just so you know. It's like part of the recommendation. Good, bad, in between, whatever. But this was a really good one. I really thought
This
this
was
was
a good
cute because she's
one.
like completely wiped out from making the sword for however long she did. And he like is, you know, brings her back and then runs off to deal with his whatever stuff he has to do in his business. And then he comes back and it says, I woke to hands built for violence, gently soaping my scalp. No one had ever washed my hair before. It was an experience I wanted again and again, but only from him, only from Fisher. I was like, oh, that's so
Oh,
cute. No one had
so
ever soaped your scalp
cute.
because you literally didn't have a bath until a couple weeks ago, but it's
True.
still really
That's
cute.
so sweet. So sweet. I'm beginning to think that maybe it's just more in a fantasy context that I appreciate it more because the stakes are much higher. Whereas
that.
like in some silly romance novel where like the worst thing that happens is that I don't know, your fish dies or something and then somebody's washing your hair and you're like, okay.
Where that girl already has a specific hair routine and you're like, he's messing it up. He's not doing the
That's my
routine.
thing about it. I don't want you messing up my hair.
Exactly.
I don't know. But
Yes.
in a non-fantasy book, I mean, maybe in some fantasies, but specifically like a contemporary romance, sometimes it's not even because they had a bad day or something. It's just that
Yeah.
they think that that's taking care of each other, which great. And for those people out there listening who that is you, I'm so happy for you. But I
Yes.
don't think I would respond the same way. I'd be
Yeah.
like, ugh, stop touching me. Get off my hair.
Maybe like a modern romance written between someone and a hairdresser where that's why they fall in love. Like, they just give the best scalp massages at this Tonian guy. I'm falling in love with this.
It's a great idea. Write that down. Okay, so Sarah starts talking to the Quicksilver in Fisher's body. I've been waiting
Finally.
for this moment.
Yes.
Yes, finally. And she says, I'm Ceres. I'm an alchemist. And the Quicksilver cuts her off and says, we know who she is. She is the dawn. She is the moon. She is the sky. She is oxygen in our lungs. And I was like, that's interesting, especially after Fisher got mad at Carrion for calling her sunshine and said she is moonlight. And then later, when Kingfisher brings out Solace for Ceres, it says its pommel was embellished with a crescent moon, the horns of the crescent so close that they almost touched to form a whole circle. And I was like, she is the moon.
Yeah.
All
Well,
these
and
little moments.
I thought about this one too. Like, is this the Quicksilver saying this, that that Ceres, being the alchemist, gives it life, literally, like oxygen in its lungs? Or is this like Kingfisher? Like
Right.
specifically the ones in Kingfisher. This is Kingfisher kind of saying this. And then it goes back to the whole, like, is Kingfisher so enraptured in Ceres because of the Quicksilver?
Right.
Like that whole argument I brought up last time too.
Well, and then Laurith says something in the section about how, like, he'll never forgive me if his reason for breathing dies or something.
I think it's
Isn't that what
Renfis,
he's,
but yeah.
or reason for existing, or yeah, Renfis. But then, yeah, the Quicksilver saying she has oxygen in our lungs here is also really interesting with that context.
Because they're mates.
Because they're mates. Mates.
But we had been talking about the Quicksilver in Kingfisher's eye for a really long time, and I had the theory that she would literally try to take it out of his eye, like how in the book, how it looks like it's like
Yeah.
a tear down or whatever. But we kind of learn here that the Quicksilver has literally bonded to Kingfisher. And so it's not like just like stuck inside of him and needing someone to remove it. It like literally bonded like it did to the sword and gave magic to the sword. And so I wonder if that's like where Kingfisher's power comes from, because Nimmerell also turned this black like Kingfisher, so maybe it's all connected.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's where his power and his magic and whatever deal they made when Kingfisher almost died, but the Quicksilver, I guess, decided to bond and save him and all of those things. But Kingfisher does say, but now you know it's not just inside me, it's part of me, and without it, I'll die anyway. So I guess that whole theory of her getting it out is not it, unless something changes. For right now, I'm taking that one off the list, I suppose. Then whenever Fisher's trying to decide if he's going to let Saris like fight or not and all of the thing, it says he set his jaw and he was thinking about it. So drinkies again.
Wow, I missed another one.
That's why we're here for you, girl. We got you.
Shout out to Lauren carrying the game in this episode.
I thought this interaction between them was really cute whenever in her mind, like she's talking to him, like, do not force me to stay. Please, please. Like, let me, you know, like, don't make me go back to the tent, like all the things. And so Kingfisher finally turns to her and he's like, humans still make promises to each other, even though they can be broken, don't they? Because they trust each other to honor their word. And she's like, yes. And he goes, well, then swear it, little OSHA, and I'll trust you. Isn't that so cute? And then she like swears it, but they trust each other. This whole chapter section went from like hating each other to in the middle of it like I don't hate you, and now to trusting each other, and it's like the reason for breathing. Like there's so much growth
Enemies
here.
to lovers.
I'm here for it.
Yes.
The very last line in this chapter is, I believe, Renfis saying to the group, if you should find a soul sundered from flesh, order a drink for us at the first tavern you come across in the afterlife. We'll settle the tab when we get there. And I was like, that's such a cool way to say we're getting drunk regardless of what happens after this battle. Like, either in heaven or when we win, we're getting wasted. So
Amazing.
That takes us to chapter 31, the last one for this section. It's called The Darn.
Oh, darn.
And we get this like little vampire lore where we learn that vampires can't pass over running water. And so this is just, I've read so many or seen so many vampire things, and each one has its own different rules for what vampires can and can't do. Like if they can enter your house, or the salt, or the garlic, or the running water, or a bajillion things. And so this was just like, oh, I love getting all this extra little info for the vampires. I'm a big fan of all of that, obviously.
I did like that as well. And like the Fae I said earlier too, her vampire lore is very like based in old lore of real life. They can't like cross running water or something about the purity of water. I do enjoy that as well.
I just like knowing like what world I'm in, like with the because it's helping narrow down my extensive vampire knowledge to where I'm at.
To know which ones you're up against.
Yes, exactly. Good, bad, or in between. And then just like with that though, we get this description of all the vampires coming across, and even when they come out of the water, when they eventually like walk through the bottom of the water and stuff, and it is so descriptive and so extremely creepy from like literally everyone, and it's just a lot. And go reread it if you want to. But like it
Can't recommend it, but
it was, some of it was really intense and like really deep, and it's just I guess just a shout out to Callie again for being such a good writer and descriptive and inflicting emotions in me, even the ones I don't like.
Oh, definitely. This almost put me on the cry counter, like some of her descriptions of these vampires. It was just, Jon tried to like warn me sort of that there was like something he wasn't sure if we should do, if like needed a content warning or something, and I was like, oh, okay. And he's like, it's, you know, you'll see it when you get there, it's in chapter 31. So I like knew something was coming, and this still caught me so off guard that was, I don't know, it was really shocking. But yeah, very descriptive for sure, very emotionally charged, I guess. But on a very unserious note related to that, describing the ragged old man vampire who came out first, it said side to side his jaw worked, and I wrote cheers.
I think it counts.
Sure.
Cheers, everybody. Stay hydrated out there.
I mean, they did. They
Maybe missed the one where his jaw was taken clean off. Does that count?
I missed that.
And then, like, Saris is fighting with Solace, which is, like, the blade she got from Zalvarin, and it's also like Kingfisher's dad's sword and all of the things, which is super, super cool. And like you said earlier, it's like the blade with the crescent moon pommel, and was a god's sword. So it has Quicksilver in it, and then it was like awake, alive, listening, talking to me. And so it's like this whole epic moment with the sword, and then like all this insane fighting, which is freaking sweet, by the way. Like how she does in all the moments.
Yeah.
But she just gets the sword and goes and fights. So I'm really looking forward to like when she goes to bed at night and she's just chilling with her sword, and then she can like have a little chat. And just, like, have a little chit chat.
Little pillow talk.
Yeah, exactly. And see like if she can strike up a cool deal, or like what's gonna go on with her sword, or maybe like do some sort of cool alchemisty stuff. So I'm excited for that moment with her sword.
Because we know if there's an
assuming she gets
opportunity to
keep
make a
it.
bargain.
Yeah, exactly. She's gonna take it.
She'll do it.
Fisher kind of goes off like down the bank, and so Renfis and Saris are still in that same spot, and Renfis turns around and tells her to like run, and she basically says like no, like I'm gonna stay here. If I run, I'll probably die, so I'd rather just stay here, stay with you. And he says, Fisher will never forgive me if his sole reason for living is torn to pieces on her first effing battlefield. And I wrote, whoa, what was that?
Yep.
Because even she was like, the next line, this catches her short too. And she's like, wait a minute. And then she like gets attacked.
Yeah.
And then she can't think about it anymore. She just kind of slams this in here
Yeah,
in the POV.
Got him.
And then we don't get like anything else after
Yeah.
this. It's like naturally.
Yeah. Well, and it would make sense that I feel like Ren would know that, whether or not Kingfisher has like confided in him,
Yeah.
or I feel like Ren has been around for the whole progression of their relationship and like weirdly smelled their smells.
Or
and all
yeah,
the
he
things.
just knows now.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
being
They're
around.
soul
totally know
friends.
that.
They know each other.
Yeah.
They're soul friend. Well, no, Laurith
Yeah,
is the
I know.
soul friend. Yeah, that's right.
But this whole like really weird moment where Saris is like fighting and she's like, something came over me and time slowed down. It's like the strangest thing happened. And then she goes into like all this descriptions of the like vampire zombie person coming at her and what she could see and how she could almost predict what it was about to do and like whatever move it was about to make. And it
Yeah.
was like, I could see the mindless animal's plan of attack. And then she like totally took it out. And then even Ren noticed that something like weird happened and was like, what was that? And she's like, I don't know. And then they like keep fighting. So I would like to know what that was. Like, is this like a cool power of the sword? Like that she can predict
Oh.
the action coming at her from whoever she's fighting or something? Or I don't know, but it was pretty cool. It was a weird paragraph
sweet.
that I'm really excited to get to know more of.
Yeah.
And then whenever Fisher finally comes over, Ren is like, she's been kicking ass, brother. She wields solace almost as well as your father did. And then it says, Fisher regarded me with something that looked a lot like pride. And he's like, is that so? And I literally am kicking my feet in my bed. I was like reading this. I was like, oh my God, he's so in love. He's so proud. And then he turns that pride over to Laurith and starts his whole chant where they're like, Laurith of the Darn.
Yes.
I
I'm so
love
excited
that.
for Laurith. I love seeing it for him, and I'm super excited. It still scares me for him in his
Yeah.
future, but I am
I know.
excited for him currently where he's currently living.
Yes.
And then we hear all of a sudden someone yelling Kingfisher's name, and we look across, and it said there on the other side of the river was a woman in a ruby red dress, her bright blonde hair streaming out behind her like a banner of gold on a howling wind. It was Everlane, and she was flanked by at least 100 vampires.
Laura's dream scenario.
Heyo. A fancy red dress with my blonde hair billowing. 100
Kingfisher,
vampires.
no.
Stop. That's funny.
All right,
But that
y'all.
is where we leave it. That's wild.
That is
Yeah.
where
That's a
we
wild
We
leave
finally
it
get to
here.
leave you on a cliffhanger.
No.
Payback for all
Yeah.
the fourth
We
grade
kinda-
battles
we
you
kinda
made us
plotted that.
stop halfway through.
Yep. Yep.
Rude.
So we're moving on to our current character thoughts. What do you got, Con?
You already know what I got. I love him. I love him.
I love it.
Welcome to the character hype train, Lorax. I love this man. Carrion also continues to be an absolute icon and total hottie. Big fan. Kingfisher is well on his way to becoming
He's still
my
on his
number
way?
one book boyfriend. I'm saying number one. Well on his way to becoming number one on the book boyfriend list, which is a hard list to top. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. We only have 2 chapter sections left, and I'm kind of freaking out about that. Saris is just really fun to experience this story through, and I love, 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 love how unique her power is. This has been like such a fun journey to go on with her. I love this. Onyx is the best boy in all the realms. I love him so much. And I love that we are still getting introduced to more and more creatures and side characters and stuff. That is super fun.
Yeah.
I will say, for Kingfisher to almost be your number one book boyfriend, and you're only halfway through the first book.
I know.
That's saying a lot because you finished some other series, and those.
Yep.
That's saying a big thing.
Big thing.
We'll see where it takes us.
Lauren.
Yeah.
Big thing.
I just love everybody. I feel like I was already planning my reread this week and just trying to maybe I'll just do audio next time and do all the things. And I'm so excited. I love this book so much.
Me too.
No one is like anything I thought they would be. Like in the best way. Like when I've met someone and I thought they would be X, Y, and Z, and it's like they have an extra something, or there's a twist that happens, or I don't know. I'm just eating it all up, and I have loved seeing the character growth in this section, like all around, from like Laurith, but also we see a little more from Carrion and like his knowledge that he has, and obviously stuff that happens with Kingfisher and Saris. And I don't know, just all of it. But now I just need everything to stay as is, where nothing bad is going to happen and all is fine. Because I'm like freaking out about Everlane and Laurith and whatever else might happen. So if we could just stay happy, I'll be great.
I just feel like the next chapter section, because it's the second to last one, is guaranteed to fuck shit up.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, no, we stay right here. where we're happy.
She
we're
closes the book
made.
happily ever after.
Everlane's just waving with
she
all
married
of her
all
vampire
100
companions.
vampires.
All is wonderful.
Oh man. Well, speaking of the next couple sections, are there thoughts and theories you'd like to discuss?
I don't know. There's so many things happening right now. I feel like I'm just going to forget them all until they come back and have a full circle moment. So I am racking my brain trying to think of stuff, but it's hard because there's just so many moving pieces. But I am becoming more and more convinced that Fisher's tattoos are a result of the Quicksilver and his own magic, and that he and Saris are totally fated mates, and that's why she's now marked with a capital M as well. Big fan of that. Creating the relics, though, does feel more like kind of a side quest now, because some bigger stuff has to start going down soon, since there's not a whole lot of the book yet. So I was trying to think of what that could be, like a confrontation with Malcolm, or Feeders making it beyond the Darn. Like he really goes full force or something, or someone activating the Quicksilver, and maybe an appearance from Fisher's father because of that, or just Belicon being a horrid little biatch in general. I feel like that's going to happen too. So I don't know. And I really have no idea about Everlane. Jon tried to ask me when I finished the chapter section about that. Like, what do you think? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know why she's there. I'm confused.
Do you think she's there under duress, or there as she's angry at Kingfisher kind of thing?
Well, I didn't really think about it as her being mad at Kingfisher, but I was thinking about how very early on Lauren called out something that Everlane said about how friends could still stab you in the back or something like that. And you were nervous that she was going to turn on her or something. So I was like, I guess it could be that, but that just seems weird after all of their very positive interactions, and then for her to just be gone for a while and come back. I don't know. Lauren, what do you think?
Well, I have lots of thoughts and theories, but if we're jumping to this one, because I do have this in my list, if we're jumping to Everlane, when we meet her, Kingfisher hadn't seen her in 100-something years. He has no idea what she's up to. He has no idea what she's been doing. She could have been doing all sorts of who knows what. And we are only assuming that Kingfisher was with Malcolm for the last 100 whatever years, but maybe it was Everlane, or maybe she's been doing who knows what evil, horrible stuff. Like her dad is Bellicon. Like she could be.
True.
Like there's so much there. We're assuming she's nice. So I want to think that she's like best friend material and she's great and she's like kidnapped or something. But the quote is, on the other side of the river was the woman in ruby red dress with her bright blonde hair streaming out behind her like a banner of gold on the howling wind. It was Everlane, and she was flanked by at least 100 vampires. It did not say she was in handcuffs. It did not say they were holding her down. It did not say
That's true.
she was freaking out screaming. She just yelled Kingfisher's attention. It didn't say she screamed. It didn't say duress. It just like, and then she's just standing next to them. So
all dressed up.
Yeah. She's not like looking like a prisoner. Like it gives,
or like she's going to battle or something.
Yeah. It gives evil to me. I don't know. So that's where I'm at.
Okay.
I want her to be
your
friends.
others?
But yeah. For my other theories, Saris and Kingfisher are totally mates, but she has like a weird month to accept that, and I don't really understand what that means. But I assume she will accept that. Then I have some stuff about Everlane, which we just talked about. Now that Saris knows a little bit more about talking to the Quicksilver, I imagine, like you said, the relics would be like a side quest or whatever. I just feel like she's just gonna go in there and knock it out. Like she'll just be in there and be like, oh yeah, you can have this deal, sure, and you can do this, okay, whatever. And like she'll come out like 2 days later and be like, I'm done. And it'll be like no big deal. I could obviously be wrong about that, but I just feel like now that we're moving on with that, it doesn't feel like a main point anymore. So it's just gonna like be accomplished really quick, or even off page. I don't think we're done in Zilvarin yet. As much as like everything seems like it's happening here with Malcolm or Bellicon or maybe even Everlane or whatever, it makes me think that like either some of them are going to move to Zilvarin somehow, like the bad guys here are going to move there, or that some of the characters, like some of the main players from Zilvarin will come here, whether that's like Hayden or Madra or something like that. I just don't think we're done in that other realm somehow.
Yeah.
So that could be like Saris being forced or tricked to opening the Quicksilver somehow, or like being manipulated into doing that. I don't really know, but I don't know. I just feel like it's not done there. And I keep forgetting Madra exists to a certain extent until somebody's like, oh yeah, vampire blood and you can stay alive forever. And I was like, oh yeah, that Madra lady. Like, oh yeah, she's here too. So it just makes me think we're not done there. So I don't know. But what I am really upset about is that we're almost to the end of this book. And I feel like we just started, and we just started talking about it as a group, and it's over. Like we're almost done. Like this is the shortest amount like in a series we've done, and we're waiting till November for book 2. And I'm just like super upset that we have to wait and that it's almost done. I'm so mad.
I know. It's happening so fast.
Okay.
But I love it too.
I know, it's so good. I'm going to totally reread it like 40 times before November. Cry counter. I feel like I almost cried for Saris's mom, but I did not. And you feel like you almost cried for valid reasons with some of the vampire things. But I don't think anybody actually
did. I did not.
Yeah.
No.
So we're all still zero.
Still zero.
Which means that Callie's really going to get us.
Oh, I know.
Like next episode or the last, I'm going to come in here with like 25 cries or something. So.
Can't wait.
Well, that is all for this week, friendos. Next week, we're discussing chapters 32 to 38. So read along with us, part of the journey. Before you go, take a moment to rate the episode. Leave a nice review for us. We'd really appreciate it. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok as well for more fun and exciting book content, updated podcast schedules, merch drops, and lots more. And if you'd like to chat about this episode with us, check out our dedicated podcast episode channels in our Discord through Patreon.
And if you're still with us and just as thirsty as you were before this episode, but probably more just like us, then go on Git and visit betweenpagesandfriends.com to peruse and join our Patreon. Double dive into our Discord, Bust a Move with Book Club, check out our newly released merch, and follow your 4 favorite friends, that's us, and what we're reading between the pages. Until then, bite me and call me a slut, but also stay wordy, stay wordy. Wait, what?
What's happening right now?
I got myself.
Oh my God.
But also, stay wordy, stay nerdy, don't stress, and stay blessed. I don't know.
The outro
Whatever.
gets me every
Stay
time.
Thirsty needs to be in there now.
Yeah, that's true. Stay thirsty.
Because of the jaw ticks, guys. Get your mind out of the gutter.
Yeah.
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 That's not how I meant it at all. So I just make that clear.
Wow. What an episode.
Go read.